The betrayal of my wife, I uncovered my mother-in-law's secret. Wang Yu's child has no blood relation to him, which is undoubtedly a heavy blow. Pain and sorrow wash over him like a tide. However, the drama of fate doesn't stop there. He accidentally uncovers his mother-in-law's secret. Wang Yu's greatest sorrow in life is not death or unspent money, but discovering that the child he has raised for years is not his own. Holding the freshly printed paternity tests, both stating, no blood relation, he realizes that the two children he has loved for so long are not his biological offspring. This explosive revelation chills him, even in the July heat. Among the myriad sufferings in the world, the green hat is the most painful. His wife's betrayal leaves him feeling suffocated. Over time, relationships can become stale, and someone inevitably seeks excitement amidst the mundane. Wang Yu sits trembling in a hospital chair, grief-stricken, reflecting on promises of everlasting love that now feel like lies. His wife, Chen Yuting, was the campus beauty in college. Even after having 2 children, she remains stunningly fit and mature, with fair skin and flowing black hair, not resembling a mother in her 30s at all. Coming from a wealthy family, she is the only daughter, a true beauty. Wang Yu, an ordinary man, felt proud to marry someone so perfect, believing he was the happiest man alive after their children were born. Yet, the 2 flimsy pieces of paper in his hand shatter his perceived happiness. Remembering years of deception, he realizes he has treated her like a queen, feeling foolish. His rage has no outlet, and his future looks bleak. Even if he exposes the truth, the stigma of infidelity will remain. His father-in-law disapproves of him, and he fears stirring trouble that would push Chen Yuting towards divorce. What would he gain in the end? His expression darkens. The betrayal feels unforgivable. Leaving the hospital in despair, he stumbles into a bar, deciding to indulge tonight and live for himself from now on. Wang Yu is tall and handsome, his elegant demeanor having drawn many admirers in school, but now, surrounded by women, he drinks heavily, his despair attracting protective instincts from those around him. One woman approaches, offering to join him, and he welcomes anyone. At this moment, he seeks only to drown his sorrows and forget about love and his wife. Soon, he passes out in a booth, surrounded by women who start to take advantage of his state. Let go. This man is mine tonight. The declaration shatters the bar's noisy atmosphere. As the women grow bolder, a cold, commanding voice cuts through, halting their actions. Who do you think you are? One angrily retorts, while another scoffs defiantly. The chaos escalates as the women argue, each wanting to prove her right to him. Here's 10,000. Whoever grabs it first, wins. A thin check flutters to the ground, igniting a frenzied scramble. In his haze, Wang Yu feels himself being lifted, sensing a woman's softness. He struggles to see clearly, but he is too far gone. After leaving the bar, he finds himself in a car, the driver a girl with long, flowing black hair, reminding him of his wife when they first met. Chen Yuting, you liar. You let me raise another man's children and still dare to show your face. The driver ignores him, focused on the road. Drunk, Wang Yu continues to vent his rage and despair. I did a paternity test today. Neither child is mine. Why did you do this to me? Tears flow as he begins to sob uncontrollably. A man's tears are worth more than blood. After years of devotion, this is the outcome. Overwhelmed, he cries out his anger, I won't let you off. I'll expose your family and ruin your name, and I'll kill that bastard. The woman still didn't answer Wang Yu, and her silence aroused Wang Yu's anger. Why don't you speak? Are you guilty? I've loved you for so many years, and you treat me like this. Why? Tell me, why do you treat me like this? Wang Yu fell asleep in a daze after cursing, and he was still mumbling in his mouth, but he couldn't hear what he said clearly. After an unknown amount of time, the car stopped at an underground parking lot, and Wang Yu was helped out of the car by the woman again and taken to a house. At this time, Wang Yu was like a puppet, being manipulated by the woman at will. He only felt that someone was taking off his clothes, and then seemed to wipe his body. He was unconscious and couldn't tell where he was and what he was doing. Life is a dream, and this dream is full of the fragrance of roses. Wang Yu woke up in the morning, his mouth was dry and he wanted to ask his wife to pour a cup of hot water. Just as he was about to speak, he remembered what happened to him yesterday. He laughed at himself, feeling that it was not worth crying for himself. Since he had decided to be responsible only for himself in the future, he should let go of it quickly. A betrayed woman is not worth saving. Even if she is rich and beautiful, she is still a piece of shit and disgusting. After he recovered, he felt a little sore in his left arm, and the touch of his left hand was a little wrong. Wang Yu remembered that he went out to get drunk yesterday, and then he seemed to be taken away by a woman. Fuck. I was actually taken away by. Raising his head slightly, Wang Yu saw the woman next to him clearly. She was still sleeping peacefully, her eyes were closed, and her face was ruddy. Silky black hair spread on his arms, her breathing was even and soft, and her lips were slightly open, as if she was having a beautiful dream. The sunlight shone through the window and sprinkled on her white jade skin. The whole scene was like a perfect painting, and Wang Yu had a pair of eyes that were good at discovering beauty. Chapter 2: Be decisive in difficult situations. After a while of appreciation, the woman woke up. Although I don't know why this happened, you can make any request, she said. Wang Yu, still nervous after sobering up, responded. Wenshin looked at the man in front of her and couldn't help but smile. The person she loved had deceived her for 20 years without ever making a promise, yet here she was, indulging herself in a moment of weakness and somehow receiving a promise in return. How tragic! How lamentable! How pitiful! And even more detestable. No matter how she understood it, it only made her feel foolish. At her age, there shouldn't be anything she couldn't let go of. She had observed this man in the bar for a long time, and he also seemed to be heartbroken. While she considered burying her own feelings, Wenshin still didn't want to just find anyone. She wanted someone at least somewhat appealing and not repulsive. Some women are indeed strange, achieving their goals through self-harm while seeking perfection in the process. On their way back, she learned his name and heard his cries. It turned out he was even more tragic than her, married for 7 years to a beloved wife, yet both children weren't his. As a woman, Wenshin condemned the shamelessness of that wife while sympathizing with Wang Yu's plight. She thought, since she only wanted to find someone decent, Wang Yu was attractive enough and seemed to have good character. His story was enough to bring tears to listeners. After a long day of searching, she decided on him. At least she could give him something, letting him know that his life was not only filled with deception and betrayal, but also a bit of luck and warmth. If you want me to take responsibility, I think we can try to get to know each other for a while. This woman seemed free of any worldly airs, and Wang Yu felt it was worth exploring. Though his wife had betrayed him, he wasn't thinking of growing old alone. Feeling a bit melancholic, Wang Yu realized he had passively strayed, which was hard for someone who had always been careful. It's fine, you can go. I don't want to get to know you. What do you mean? You should resolve your own issues first. Both kids aren't yours, you should hurry and divorce your wife. How do you know? You yelled all the way in the car last night. I couldn't help but hear. Wait for me. I'll go divorce her first, then come find you. Wang Yu thought it was his married status that led to her misunderstanding. Do you not understand human language? If you want to get to know me, it has to be mutual. Just leave. I. Wang Yu turned red, not knowing what to say. It turned out this was just a one-night stand. He couldn't be as nonchalant as the woman. His traditional nature led him to leave his contact information. Wenshin waved him off, saying nothing. While she sympathized with Wang Yu, she wasn't willing to have any emotional connection with a man who had been deceived by women for so many years. Though he was attractive, it ultimately didn't matter, and she wasn't in the mood for that. Wang Yu placed the note on the bedside table and began to get dressed to leave. Lifting the blanket, he found a small red flower on the bed. This. It was understandable that Wang Yu was so excited. He had never seen such a flower even during his wedding. His wife had explained it was from when she learned dance and had gotten hurt. Wang Yu had doubted it but later found out it was indeed possible. Coupled with her deliberate attempts to please him and her remarkably soft body, he had believed her. What are you staring at? Hurry up and leave. Wenshin, blushing, urged Wang Yu. Wait for me. Dressed, Wang Yu seriously looked at Wenshin for 10 seconds, ensuring he wouldn't forget her, then left. Sitting on the bed, Wenshin regretted her decision, not because she regretted indulging herself, but because she felt she shouldn't have chosen a man like Wang Yu. His possessiveness might bring her trouble later, but that was okay. She planned to finish her business in the city and leave, likely never to meet him again. After leaving, Wang Yu went straight to his wife's company, ready to confront her. The strong urge for revenge could wait. It was time to get a divorce. Knowing the truth, he aimed to minimize his losses. Once the green hat was on, love was already gone. Chen Yuting was youthful and charming, with a solid background. Even though she was married with 2 kids, many ambitious suitors still pursued her for both wealth and beauty. Wang Yu had never cared about that before. Their relationship had always been good, and the kids were well behaved. Their family had seemed happy. Their eldest daughter was 3, and the youngest still under 1. He had treasured those little ones, yet they weren't his biological children. Reflecting now, it felt ironic to have worn a green hat for at least 4 years. Arriving at his wife's company, Wang Yu walked in silence, ignoring anyone who greeted him along the way. Pushing open the office door, he saw Chen Yuting deeply focused on her work. Looking at her beauty and competence, Wang Yu felt nothing but disdain and disgust. "Hubby, what brings you here? Where were you last night?" "I tried calling, but your phone was off," she said, noticing him. Seeing her so nonchalant only frustrated Wang Yu further. He felt deceived by her appearance. Years of infidelity and betrayal. If he hadn't done the paternity test, he might have spent the rest of his life serving her without complaint. Wang Yu shut the office door and locked it, then drew the curtains. Although he had been deceived for so long, he wasn't ready for revenge yet, and he cared about his dignity. "Chen Yuting, tell me honestly, have you ever betrayed me?" Wang Yu asked darkly, wanting to know how she would respond. "What's wrong, honey? You seem strange today, coming to the office and asking me this. Did you hear something?" Chen Yuting had been a boss for years and managed her emotions well. Seeing Wang Yu's dark expression and remembering his night away, she sensed something was amiss. Before figuring things out, she knew being impulsive wouldn't yield good results. She wanted to understand the situation first before deciding her attitude. Chen Yuting's calmness didn't surprise Wang Yu. Having been a boss for years, her competence was clear. But Wang Yu had no intention of engaging in a lengthy argument. He had evidence in hand. Who had time for disputes? Cutting off what should be severed will prevent chaos. "Leave. Look at this." Wang Yu directly handed the 2 paternity tests to her. Chen Yuting took them, and her face changed dramatically. She never expected her long-hidden secret would be discovered by her husband. It seemed today wouldn't end well. If they argued here, it would bring significant negative repercussions for her company and family. "Whose are these? You're not trying to scare me, are you? You don't need to deny it. I had them done at a formal institution, and they are legally valid. I personally collected the samples for both children. Right now, I'm not here to ask you for an explanation." Chapter 3, Don't Treat Me Like a Fool. Wang Yu's words left Chen Yuting silent for a long time, but he wasn't in a hurry after all. Some evidence couldn't be destroyed. Chen Yuting calmly looked at him and tossed the report straight into the shredder. "You never did a paternity test, and I've never seen that report. Honey, aren't we a happy family? What kind of ridiculous logic is this? Was she a reincarnation of Zhao Jiao?" Wang Yu was nearly breathless hearing his wife's words. He couldn't believe she could so calmly turn the truth upside down. Did she want him to live with this humiliation forever, to keep raising children that weren't his? Her words were more insulting than hurtful. "Chen Yuting, do you really think this is possible? Don't make me find that man and get a divorce quickly. Divorce is impossible. Our 2 daughters can't grow up without a father, and I can't live without a husband." Her tone was flat, as if she were stating something trivial. But to Wang Yu, it felt absurd. She had already put the hat on him, yet spoke to him in that manner. "If they aren't my children, I won't raise them. I won't live with you anymore. If you disagree, I'll file for divorce, and you can bear the consequences." Wang Yu was a bit agitated. His wife felt like a stranger. He had envisioned many scenarios: crying, mocking, begging, even outright denial. Yet his wife, unfazed, tried to brush it all away and act like nothing happened. Was that even possible? It was pure nonsense. Though she was wealthy, Wang Yu wasn't the kind of person who would forsake his dignity for money. If it weren't for what happened last night, if it weren't for his responsibilities as a son, Wang Yu truly felt like he could strangle his wife at that moment. Hearing that Wang Yu might take the matter to court, Chen Yuting frowned. The usually rational her could no longer contain her anger. But looking at the nearly frantic Wang Yu, she didn't dare provoke him. If things got out of hand, it would be hard to handle afterward. "Why did you even do a paternity test? Did someone tell you something?" Chen Yuting knew Wang Yu well. Their family had always been happy, and he had never suspected anything. Someone must have deliberately informed him. "Yes, I received a text yesterday morning. At first, I thought it was just a prank, but it clearly stated the time and place of your affair, which made it hard not to doubt. I still believed in you back then, thinking someone was targeting you, wanting to call you to talk it over. But after trying to reach you over a dozen times, I couldn't get through. No one answered at your office either. You told me this morning you were going to work, yet less than an hour later, I couldn't reach you, which made me suspicious. Then, when the test results came back, I was shocked to find it was true. Where were you yesterday morning? You didn't return my calls in the afternoon. Were you busy, or were you with some man? Chen Yuting didn't know how to respond. Her whereabouts yesterday were definitely not something she could share with her husband. She couldn't help but blame the person she had met. If he hadn't turned off his phone, she wouldn't be in this situation. Of course, she didn't know that the phone was deliberately shut off, and the texts sent to Wang Yu were all planned. If Wang Yu hadn't done the paternity test, there would have been other methods later, all aimed at ousting him. For the past few years, Chen Yuting had been pampered by two men, thinking she could control both. Little did she know who would be foolish enough to let that happen. Now that her husband had just learned the truth, he couldn't wait to get a divorce. The lover outside was also scheming, aiming to possess her entirely. Why so quiet? Am I right? I went out to discuss a contract. My phone died, and I was busy until evening. By the time I tried calling, no one answered. Wang Yu thought to himself when she called, he was drinking, and it seemed like she was up to no good. All right, I don't want to get into this now. One sentence: divorce. The children are yours, and the assets will be divided evenly. This ends here, and we'll each go our separate ways, never to meet again. Wang Yu was done with small talk. Don't even think about divorce. You need to come home now, or I won't be polite. At this point, what do you think I'm going to do? Do you think I can still live with you? Even if you don't want a divorce, I won't go back. I'll give you 3 days to think it over. If you haven't made a decision by then, we'll see each other in court. With that, Wang Yu left without looking back. Chen Yuting watched him walk away, infuriated, and smashed everything on her desk. Once she calmed down, she took out her phone and dialed a number. After 2 rings, the other side picked up. What's up, senior? Missing your junior? My husband knows about everything, and he knows the kids aren't his. Can you really marry me? He found out. Weren't you managing to hide it well? What good is that now? In 3 days, if I don't agree to divorce, he'll sue. If this gets out, I'm finished, and my family will suffer huge losses. What about our daughters? They are so young, how will they bear the rumors? As she spoke, Chen Yuting broke down in tears. She still had feelings for Wang Yu after years of living together. Despite some monotony, he had taken good care of her and the kids. If she could avoid divorce, she still wanted to stay with Wang Yu. Sometimes, she thought how greedy she was, craving the excitement and joy from the outside while also enjoying the warmth of family life. After so many years, she had gotten used to that life, and now that the balance had suddenly been broken, she didn't know what to do. If her affair led to divorce, would her daughters be discriminated against or insulted at school? The thought of those devastating terms being applied to her daughters made her feel cold all over. Yuting, don't cry. We still have 3 days, don't worry, I'll definitely help you resolve this. How? Will you marry me? If we can divorce peacefully, Wang Yu wouldn't cause a scene. Just get him to sign a confidentiality agreement. But if you don't marry me after the divorce, what about the kids? They'll grow up without a father. How will I explain that to them? I really can't right now. My mom has come to Shu City. If she finds out about us, I'll lose my inheritance. Is that identity so important? We're not lacking in money, and my company is already profitable. We could live well as a family of 4. It's not as simple as you think. If I lose my inheritance, that brother and sister won't let me off easily. And your company, if I lose that status, your business volume will be cut in half. The Wen family is crucial for us. Then, what should we do? I'm feeling so lost right now. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of that guy. If he doesn't listen, he'll see what it means to be cornered. Hearing the cold voice on the other end, Chen Yuting turned pale, feeling this junior wasn't the same as she remembered from school. Especially since this was their mutual fault, he actually wanted to take everything away from Wang Yu. Chen Yuting wasn't that cold-hearted. Even though she betrayed her husband, she never wanted him to suffer. No, you can't hurt Wang Yu. I've already wronged him enough, and he has taken good care of us for so many years. I can't be so heartless. Yuting, I won't hurt him. Sometimes, making someone obedient doesn't require force. Don't worry, once my mom leaves, I'll be there for you. Chapter 4, The Old Man is Really Bad. After leaving his wife's company, Wang Yu returned home, where his in-laws were taking care of their two granddaughters. The elder daughter was named Wang Keek, while the younger one was still being called Xiaobao, as her name hadn't been decided yet. Xiao Yu is back, his mother-in-law, Li Yuzhen, said, cradling Xiaobao as she walked around the living room. His father-in-law, Chen Chusheng, was sitting on the sofa telling stories to Keek. Seeing this warm and happy scene, Wang Yu couldn't help but feel a surge of anger towards his wife. What a happy family! How lovely are these two daughters, he truly adored them. Even though he knew they weren't his biological children, he couldn't muster any anger in front of them at that moment. Daddy, Daddy, hug! Keek exclaimed as she jumped off the sofa, her little legs running towards him with open arms. Looking at his daughter rushing towards him for a hug, Wang Yu couldn't hold back his tears any longer. He quickly turned away so his in-laws wouldn't see. Bending down to scoop Keek into his arms, he held her tightly, feeling her small, soft body. For a moment, Wang Yu wished he had never discovered the truth and could continue living in the beautiful dream his wife had woven. However, the thin stack of papers reminded him that even dreams could turn sour. Secretly wiping away his tears, he set Keek down and felt it was best to discuss this matter with his father-in-law. After all, he had returned to collect his things, and not saying anything might embarrass the two elderly people. Keek, go find Grandma. I need to talk to Grandpa about something, Wang Yu said, gently putting her down. Just right, Xiao Yu, I have something to discuss with you too. Let us go to the study. Once in the study, Wang Yu prepared a pot of tea for his father-in-law and closed the door behind them. Chen Chusheng had come to accept this son-in-law to some extent. Although his family background was somewhat lacking, Wang Yu's character was genuinely good. He treated his daughter well and was respectful to the elderly couple. Xiao Yu, there is something I want to discuss with you, Chen Chusheng began. Dad, go ahead, Wang Yu replied, sitting down and pouring tea for him. I want Xiaobao to take the Chen family surname. What do you think? Wang Yu was taken aback by his father-in-law's request. He had married Chen Yuting, not become a son-in-law by coming into the family. Why was Chen Chusheng suddenly making this request? Seeing Wang Yu's stunned expression, Chen Chusheng grew a bit displeased, his face hardening. The thought that his multimillion-dollar fortune would not have an heir sharing the same surname made him uncomfortable. He had opposed Wang Yu's marriage to Chen Yuran from the beginning and wanted him to be adopted into the Chen family. However, the traditional Wang Yu had firmly refused, and his daughter had strongly opposed it as well, leaving Chen Chusheng no choice but to relent. Later, he realized that Wang Yu genuinely cared for his daughter and hadn't exploited the Chen family's resources after marriage. Wang Yu went out to find a job, earned his own living, and through several years of hard work, had risen to a management position with an annual income of around 500,000. Of course, this meant little to Chen Chusheng. Even though Wang Yu was exceptional among ordinary people, in his eyes, he was still an ordinary man without a background. Why don't you agree? Chen Chusheng pressed. I have no objections. Just ask Yuting about this. Keek can take my surname if she wants, Wang Yu's response surprised Chen Chusheng. When Keek was born, Wang Yu had insisted on her taking the Chen surname. Chen Chusheng vividly remembered how flustered he had been at that time. What was going on today? He had prepared to discuss the surname issue regarding Xiaobao with this kid, even setting aside a large sum of money to offer him 20 million if Wang Yu agreed. He hadn't expected things to go so smoothly, especially since this kid was willing to let Keek change her surname to Chen as well. Xiao Yu, this isn't a joke. It's fine for Xiaobao to take the Chen surname, but Keek should still take yours. Dad, isn't he being unreasonable? The Chen family name needs to be passed on, which is why I'm pushing this. Chen Chusheng thought it best to settle the issue of Xiaobao first. As for Keek's surname, that could be discussed later. After all, you can't rush things too much. Dad, I really have no say in whether the two children take the Chen surname, Wang Yu prepared to lay everything on the table. Look at this. Wang Yu handed over 2 paternity test results. Before confronting his wife, he had anticipated she might tear up the report, so he had made multiple copies. He still had several on hand. Chen Chuxing's expression darkened as he looked at the reports. Is this true? Yes, it's true. So the children's surnames are no longer my concern. As for whether they take the Chen surname or not, you'll have to ask your daughter. I still don't even know who the biological father of the children is. You better not be lying to me, or I won't let you off the hook. Dad, I'm planning to divorce Chen Yuting, and I won't publicize this. I just hope you won't disturb my life from now on. As for whether this is true or not, you can ask your daughter. Do you really think I'd lie about something so easily debunked? With that, Wang Yu left, eager to escape this house. In the study, Chen Chuxing couldn't calm down. This matter was far beyond his expectations. Although he was reluctant to believe it, he knew Wang Yu's character well enough he wouldn't joke about something this serious. Was his daughter truly involved with such a person? He had to find out the truth. Dad, is there something wrong? Chen Yuting felt a sense of foreboding when she received her father's call. Qi and Xiaobao are not Wang Yu's children. Is that true? Chen Chuxing got straight to the point. How did you find out? Did Wang Yu tell you? The paternity test results are in my hands. You need to tell me the truth. It's not true. Qi and Xiaobao Wang Yu and my children. Wang Yu is mistaken. I'm coming home right now. With that, Chen Yuting hung up. Hearing his daughter's words, Chen Chuxing felt he had been deceived by Wang Yu. Angry, he stormed out of the study, ready to confront Wang Yu. Entering the bedroom, he found Wang Yu packing his things, and his anger flared. He had thought this kid was honest, but now he dared to deceive him. Smack! Chen Chuxing slapped Wang Yu hard. You little rascal, how dare you deceive me? I just asked Yuting, and she said Qi and Xiaobao are both your children. What do you have to say for yourself? Wang Yu, caught off guard by the slap, felt his anger rise as he listened to Chen Chuxing's accusations. So, Chen Yuting, you don't appreciate the favor I've given you. Now you're lying through your teeth. This old fool wouldn't believe the clear evidence but took his daughter's word as the truth. Fine, I was still thinking of parting on good terms, but if you refuse to admit it, I'll find that man and see if you still care about your Chen family's reputation. Chapter 5, Just 3 days. As Wang Yu looked at the furious Chen Chuxing, he felt more convinced that this man was deceiving him. For years, Chen had pretended to be a good person, slowly winning over Wang Yu and his wife. Now, his true colors were finally showing. You want to divorce Yuting? Fine, but you leave with nothing. Not a penny. You're talking nonsense. I've contributed to this family, whether it was buying a house, renovations, or everyday expenses. I've paid for everything. You think you can just take everything? You've been living off the Chen family for years without any compensation. You really think you can just take what you want? You've got it all wrong. You say I've made a fortune, but I only earned a little over 3 million in 7 years. Meanwhile, Yuting's company is worth over 100 million. You think you can just walk away with half? You're cunning, no wonder you've pretended to be a fool for so long. Do whatever you want, but we'll see you in court in 3 days. If you don't believe the reports I have, you can get your own. But don't come crying to me when you get smacked in the face with the truth. Wang Yu finished, tearing a few strands of hair and slamming them on the table. Seeing Wang Yu's defiance, Chen Chuxing doubted his daughter's claims for the first time. What are you still doing here? Scared to face the truth? Afraid your daughter really is a loose woman? Wang Yu spat, no longer holding back. You're asking for it. Chen Chuxing raised his hand, ready to slap Wang Yu again, but Wang Yu blocked it. I'm right, and you know it. You can investigate. But if you touch me, don't blame me for being rude. Wang Yu had long harbored resentment towards his father-in-law. When he married Chen Yuting, Chen was the most vocal opponent, looking down on him and pushing him to be a son-in-law. It was only after Yuting pleaded with him that he reluctantly agreed, making all sorts of promises. No one expected that Chen Chuxing would throw an extravagant wedding just to maintain the family's reputation. Then, he cut off Yuting's credit card, saying that if Wang Yu was so proud, he shouldn't use Chen family money. Wang Yu had never spent a dime from the Chen family. He bought their house through his hard work. He initially had 1.5 million and planned to take out another million in loans. But when Chen Chuxing learned that his daughter needed a loan for a 200 square meter duplex, he refused to allow it, fearing it would tarnish the Chen family's reputation. Eventually, Wang Yu compromised, thinking he could buy a smaller 100 square meter apartment. But that idea was met with opposition from Chen Chuxing as well. Wang Yu was furious. He wanted to teach this old man a lesson. In the end, Yuting convinced him that buying a house was a mutual responsibility, so he borrowed 1 million from his mother to make the purchase. He gritted his teeth and accepted it. He worked hard, quickly paying back the million he owed to the Chen family. Those years were the hardest of his life. He juggled multiple jobs and constantly had to endure the disdain from Chen Chuxing and his wife. Although Yuting worked, her father only gave her an assistant position with a meager salary, barely enough for her cosmetics. All the pressure fell on Wang Yu, but he persevered for Yuting and to avoid being looked down upon. Fortunately, his hard work paid off. He steadily established himself in the company and was promoted to department manager 2 years ago. Life improved, and Yuting gave birth to 2 adorable daughters, fulfilling both family and career aspirations. If it weren't for the revelation that the children weren't his, Wang Yu would still feel like the happiest man in the world. The betrayal he discovered made him want to lash out at Chen Chuxing, but he held back. "I will get to the bottom of this. If I find out you're scheming, I'll make your life a living hell. Just don't let your daughter's actions kill you. Oh, you definitely want to die like father, like daughter. What kind of daughter you have reflects on you. How could you get upset when you've already lost face?" Wang Yu's sharp tongue could easily rival Chen Chuxing's. His words nearly gave Chen a heart attack. He bypassed Chen and continued packing his clothes, while his mother-in-law remained oblivious to the turmoil, assuming the argument was just about the surname for their daughter. When Chen Yuting returned home from work and saw her mother with the 2 daughters, everything appeared normal. "Mom, where are Dad and Wang Yu?" "They are upstairs. Your dad wanted to talk to him about the surname issue. They seem to have had a heated argument. You should go and mediate," her mother suggested, still unaware of the full situation. Chen Yuting put down her bag, kissed her daughters, and hurried upstairs. She found Wang Yu packing while her father stood at the door, glaring at him. This development was unexpected for Chen Yuting. She hadn't anticipated that her parents would be involved in this conflict. The atmosphere was tense, and her hopes of saving her marriage seemed increasingly futile. "Honey, what's going on?" Ignoring her father, she rushed over to hold Wang Yu's hand. Wang Yu looked at her delicate hand, once so appealing, now only nauseating to him. He thought about how this hand had touched another man and quickly pulled away. "You've arrived just in time. You need to explain this to your father. I don't want to see either of you. I'll call you in 3 days to finalize the divorce." With that, he pushed past her, dragging his suitcase as he prepared to leave. Chen Yuting clung to his waist, unable to utter a word, tears streaming down her face. She had thought she didn't care about her husband, but as he prepared to leave, the feelings of longing and regret surged within her. She didn't understand why she felt this way, but a strong voice inside urged her not to let him go. "Let him leave. I doubt he can go anywhere without the Chen family. Just wait until he comes back begging," Chen Chuxing thought, feeling pity for his daughter while growing more contemptuous towards Wang Yu. Even if his daughter had strayed, Qik and Xiaobao were still his granddaughters. A man who couldn't keep his wife deserved the humiliation. The more he looked at Wang Yu, the more he disliked him. Wang Yu forcefully pried Chen Yuting's hands off him, shot a cold glance at Chen Chuxing, and left without saying another word. In the living room, Wang Yu's mother-in-law watched him storm out with his suitcase, feeling uncomfortable. What's the big deal about letting Xiaobao take the Chen surname? Why act like this? She turned away, too annoyed to look at Wang Yu. "Daddy, where are you going?" Qik asked innocently, unaware of the tension. Wang Yu, filled with anger, couldn't take it out on Qik. After all, she was innocent and couldn't choose her family. He had always cherished her, and how could he bring himself to hurt her? "I'm going on a business trip. Be a good girl at home, Qik. When I return, I'll take you to the amusement park." "Yay, the amusement park. Qik will be good at home. Daddy, come back quickly." As he watched Qik call out to him, Wang Yu's resentment towards Yuting deepened. It was all her doing, putting such a small child through this. Suppressing his urge to embrace Qik, Wang Yu forced a smile and patted her head, leaving with a mix of anger and frustration. Chapter 6. If you have money, you want me to be a turtle. Leaving home, Wang Yu drove aimlessly on the street, looking at the prosperous city, not knowing where to go. When the car passed a community, he found that this was the place he left this morning. Although he didn't dare to meet that woman yet, it would be good to rent a house here and live closer to her. He parked the car directly on the side of the road. There was a real estate agency outside the community. Wang Yu walked in to consult. If there was a house in the community, he would move in today. The person who received Wang Yu was a middle-aged woman who gave people a very capable feeling. After understanding Wang Yu's needs, she recommended 3 houses to him. One was a small 1-bedroom and 1 living room house with only 60 square meters, and the rent was 2,500 yuan a month. The other was a 3-bedroom house with 122 square meters, but there was a tenant inside, and now he was looking for a roommate to share the house. Wang Yu rejected it on the spot. There is another one, which is a large flat of more than 200 square meters, luxuriously decorated, with complete furniture and appliances, and the owner has not lived there yet. The agent is not sure why. But the house is really good, and Wang Yu is more interested in this house because it is just above the woman's floor. The rent is 10,000 yuan a month, which is still affordable for Wang Yu, who earns more than 500,000 yuan a year. After signing a contract and paying half a year's rent, Wang Yu successfully got the key. Taking the elevator, Wang Yu came to the floor where the house was located, opened the door, and looked at the decoration of the house, which was basically the same as in the picture. He was still very satisfied. After putting his clothes and belongings in place, Wang Yu fell on the bed and fell asleep without eating. What happened in the past 2 days exhausted him. Now he was alone and relaxed, waiting to divorce his wife in 3 days. Wang Yu had no idea about his wife's company, and his dignity did not allow him to take advantage of the Chen family. He just wanted to get back what belonged to him. Wang Yu paid 1.5 million yuan for the house, and his wife borrowed 1 million yuan from his mother-in-law. Later, Wang Yu also paid back the 1 million yuan. So the house belonged to Wang Yu. Although it was marital property, Wang Yu would not give his wife a cent. Now the housing prices are rising very fast. The house that cost 2.5 million yuan at that time can probably be sold for 4 million yuan now. Wang Yu didn't want too much. He just wanted 4 million yuan. As long as he could get a divorce smoothly, he really wanted to be as far away from his wife and her family as possible. Wang Yu's phone rang at around 3 p.m. He saw that it was from the company, saying that he had something to do and needed to go to the company. Wang Yu took a week of annual leave for his wife's affairs. The company called at this time, which must be something important. Although his family was broken, Wang Yu still valued his career. After all, he still needed to make a living in the future and take care of his parents far away in his hometown. When he arrived at the company, Wang Yu went directly to the general manager's office. "Boss Zhang, what's up? Manager Wang is here, please sit down. I do have something to talk to you about." Wang Yu sat on the sofa in the office, thinking about what he wanted the general manager to talk to him about. "Manager Wang, I asked you to come here today, half for official business and the other half for personal matters." "Boss Zhang, you talk, I'm listening. You've been in the company for almost 7 years, and you've always performed well. And after you became a manager, you've also contributed a lot to the company's development. Your contribution is visible to the company. Now there's an opportunity. Lao Zhu is going to retire next month. I want you to take his place. I wonder what you think." Lao Zhu is one of the 4 vice presidents of the company. He is in charge of the company's 2 major departments, scientific research and engineering projects. He can be said to be a powerful vice president. It was reported some time ago that Lao Zhu would be rehired by the company after retirement, but judging from what Boss Zhang said today, Lao Zhu might want to take a break. He is frustrated in love but successful in the workplace. "Mr. Zhang, I personally am very grateful for the company's recognition and promotion of me. I am confident that I can definitely complete the tasks assigned to me by the company to succeed Mr. Zhu. Regarding the promotion, no matter how you feel now, you must agree first. How to do the work afterwards, we will talk about it later." Wang Yu, who has been in the workplace for many years, is not aloof. He will definitely seize the opportunity when it comes. "Okay, the company needs young people like you to lead, but there is a condition you must agree to, otherwise this position will not fall into your hands." "What condition?" Wang Yu was a little surprised. Could it be that Lao Zhang wanted to find him to enrich himself and dig some company projects to do himself? "Don't be nervous. It should be your private matter. I shouldn't ask about it, but you are about to be promoted to the company's senior management, and I have to pay more attention to you. What private matter, Mr. Zhang, you say? I will definitely do what I can do. When you had a bad premonition. Okay, I won't keep you in suspense. If you want to be promoted to vice president, there is only one condition: you cannot divorce within 5 years. What, Mr. Zhang, why didn't I know that the company has this rule? Wang Yu was shocked when he heard this. He was about to get divorced, so why did this guy put forward such a targeted condition? Don't be nervous, Xiao Wang. I've told you the conditions. You can think about whether you can accept them, but I hope you can give me an answer before leaving. Get off work. Mr. Zhang, to be honest, I will divorce my current wife in 3 days. During this period, I am not the vice president yet. I will take over Mr. Wang's position next month. By then, I will have been divorced, which should not violate the conditions you mentioned. Young man, things are not what you think. If you want to be promoted to vice president, you cannot divorce after 3 days, and you cannot divorce in these 5 years. These are the conditions. You can decide for yourself. Also, the annual salary of the company's vice president is 5 million, and there are dry stock dividends. Last year, Lao Zhu received more than 30 million in dividends. This year's performance will be better. You should think it over carefully. After speaking, Mr. Zhang waved his hand and let Wang Yu leave. Confused, Wang Yu walked out of the company, unable to understand why the resistance to his divorce came from the company. According to Mr. Zhang, if he didn't divorce, he could earn at least 40 million by the end of the year, which was money he could never earn in his lifetime. But if he didn't divorce and continue to be a cuckold, it would be better to kill him. At that time, he didn't even want to be a live-in son-in-law, let alone endure his wife's betrayal and raise someone else's child for another 5 years. Damn it, let alone 40 million, I wouldn't agree to 400 billion. A divorce is necessary. A cuckold with money is not a cuckold. After when you left, Mr. Zhang dialed a phone number in the office. Mr. Wen, I have done what you asked. Now it depends on what Wang Yu decides. If he agrees, I will tamper with the contract. Whatever he takes after 5 years, he will have to return. If he doesn't agree, I will fire him directly and ban him from the entire industry, so that he can't make a penny outside. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. Come over tomorrow. I have a project I want to talk to you about. Chapter 7: Going Home. Wang Yu walked out of the company gate, feeling irritable, and walked across the street to buy a pack of cigarettes. He took a deep puff and coughed because of the spicy smoke. After a while, he took another puff, and the turbid smoke filled his chest. Now he is free from the constraints of his family and has begun to show his character that has been suppressed for many years. Before he met his wife in college, Wang Yu was still a cheerful and outgoing boy. Before senior year, he was just like an ordinary college student. He liked to play games and basketball with his roommates. Of course, the habits of smoking and drinking were also developed at that time. When he was in senior year and started dating his wife, Wang Yu began to change himself unconsciously. He stopped smoking, had no time to play games, and even slowly gave up his favorite basketball. The barbecue stall that he used to go to with his brother several times a month gradually disappeared. It was like a different person. His hobbies and living habits began to move closer to his wife. Smoking a cigarette, Wang Yu recalled the days after he met his wife. I have always been silently accommodating her, and for this, I have changed my habits, lost my hobbies, and alienated my friends. I spent several years to make myself the person my wife likes, but what did I get? I am such a fool. Wang Yu thought about it and slapped himself hard. Others get rewards for their efforts, but I get cuckolded for my efforts. What a damn life. Divorce, whoever wants the money can take it. After smoking 2 cigarettes in a row, Wang Yu felt dizzy and was too lazy to go to the company again. He immediately called Mr. Zhang. Xiao Wang, have you thought it through? Mr. Zhang, I've thought about it. My wife and I really can't live together anymore. We must get a divorce. The specific reason is not convenient to disclose. Xiao Wang, this opportunity is rare. You have to make a careful choice with an annual income of tens of millions. Young people should not be so impulsive. Think it over carefully, Mr. Zhang. If you can do it, then do it. If you can't do it, it doesn't matter. I just want to live a happy life. Okay, just think it over. After hanging up the phone, Mr. Zhang's face was not very good. The original plan was to let Wang Yu be the deputy general manager, and then do some tricks on the contract, drag him for 5 years, and then kick him out of the company, and he didn't have to pay a dime. Now it seems that Wang Yu can only be kicked out, and according to Wang Yu's contract, he will have to pay him hundreds of thousands of liquidated damages for firing this guy. This deal is not very cost-effective. After hanging up the phone, Wang Yu's mood was much smoother. He rejected the company's temptation of tens of millions. He felt that he gradually found himself again. The boy who chased the wind is back again. Wang Yu drove straight to his hometown. After all, he was getting divorced, and he didn't want to hide it from his parents. He had endured so many grievances and hardships in the past. In the past few years since he married his wife, he has spent most of his time on work and family. I don't care about my parents enough. I feel like I'm nothing. In the future, I will only be worthy of the people who gave birth to me and the people I gave birth to. Wang Yu muttered silently. But thinking that he doesn't even have a child is disgusting. Suzhou City is about 200 kilometers away from his hometown. Wang Yu drove home in 3 hours. When he walked into their house, he smelled the familiar aroma of rice. My mother made hand-rolled noodles. Now I think about how many years I haven't eaten them. After getting ready, Wang Yu pushed open the door and walked into the yard. The familiar scene came into view, and a sense of home rushed towards him. Mom, I'm back. A sentence that I used to shout often finally rang in this yard again after a few years. Xiaoyu, you're back. Where's Yuting? Isn't she with you? Wang Yu looked at his mother in front of him. There were a few more wrinkles on her face than when he last saw her. Her once black and shiny hair was gradually replaced by silver hair. When did his mother start to age? There were only a few fragments of her in his vague memory. Why didn't he think of his parents for so many years? Why didn't he spend more time with them? Mom, I came back by myself. Mom. I'm hungry. Wang Yu's voice was a little choked up at the end. He felt inexplicably uncomfortable. He felt guilty towards his parents and condemned himself. Son, come in quickly. The meal is just ready. Wang's mother looked at her son kindly. When Wang Yu came to their house and just sat down, his mother brought a big bowl of noodles, which was covered with meat and a large spoonful of red pepper. My mother will never forget my hobbies, and the meat on the noodles is my mother's deep love for me. While eating noodles, Wang Yu felt uncomfortable, but he felt much more at ease. Mom, where's my dad? Halfway through the meal, Wang Yu found that only his mother was with him, so he asked curiously. The temple in the village is going to be demolished. They said they were going to build a small square. Your dad asked people to demolish the temple. The temple at the west end. Yes, it's the temple you often went to when you were a child. Oh. It's also good to build a square. I can go there to dance and exercise in the evening. After the meal, his mother handed him half a bowl of noodle soup, and Wang Yu drank it in one gulp. Comfortable, Wang Yu just felt like he was alive again, all the haze and dissatisfaction were swept away, and he felt indescribably happy. Mom, Chen Yuting and I are getting a divorce. Wang Yu is not a person who can hide things. He is straightforward and has no secrets. Although he feels that his wife's betrayal is a bit embarrassing, he has nothing to hide from his mother. Divorce, what's wrong? Why divorce when we are living well? Mom, because of some things, I can't live with her anymore. I came back today to tell you and my dad about it. Xiaoyu, divorce is not a joke. Kik and Xiaobao are still so young. What will happen to the children if you two divorce? Although the old lady doesn't see her two granddaughters often, her love for them has not diminished at all. Mom, Kik and Xiaobao are not mine. It's embarrassing for my son. Wang Yu hugged his mother and wanted to cry. But he stopped immediately when he felt his mother's trembling body. Mom, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Wang Yu quickly helped his mother sit on the sofa, stroked her back, and helped her calm down. Mom, don't be angry. I'm still young. I'm only in my early 30s. I will definitely give you two big fat boys in the future. The mother of the king exhaled deeply, and her energy seemed to be drained away. Her face, which was smiling just now, was slightly pale at this moment. Son, I've advised you a long time ago that it's hard to live with people from different social classes, but you just won't listen. You've been stubborn since you were a child. But Mom never thought you would suffer this and be wronged. Mom, it's okay. After the divorce, I will get married and have children soon. Then you can take care of the children and let you hug and kiss them every day. Thinking that his two daughters have been occupied by his father-in-law and mother-in-law, and his parents want to take care of them for a while and take care of their granddaughters, but they were rejected by the Chen family. Wang Yu cursed himself for being a big fool in his heart. You have grown up, and Mom can't help much now. Decide your own things. Mom believes that you will not do anything bad. Just live a good life in the future. It doesn't matter whether you get married or not. You must take good care of yourself. Don't worry, Mom. Your son is not a fool. He will definitely learn his lesson after this loss. Mom, sit down for a while. I'll go find Dad. Seeing his mother slowly calm down, Wang Yu wanted to call his father back quickly. Walking on the familiar road and smelling the fragrance of the soil, Wang Yu felt that the taste of his hometown was incomparable anywhere else. After walking for a few minutes, he saw a group of people gathered in front of the small temple from a distance. Chapter 8. Wang Yu was knocked unconscious by the mountain god. Dad, what's wrong? Wang Yu approached and saw his father busy with something. Many village officials also came. After greeting his uncles and neighbors, Wang Yu came to his father. You're back. Father Wang kept looking at his son until he finished talking to the villagers, then he patted his shoulder. Seeing his son, Father Wang was still very happy. Wang Yu saw that it was not good to talk about his embarrassing things at this time because there were so many people, and seeing his father's current state, he couldn't leave for a while. Dad, what is the village going to do? Do you need my help? Well, they were selecting people just now. The age and zodiac sign must match, and now there is one missing. Son, you came at the right time. Your age and zodiac sign are just right. Come on, now we can start. With that, Wang's father called everyone over. Wang Yu followed in confusion, not knowing why his father was looking for so many people. After a while, a total of 16 big men, including Wang Yu, walked into the temple. Today we invite the mountain god, and change the place for the mountain god. He must not land on the way. The father's voice sounded, and Wang Yu also knew what to do. This temple is a mountain god temple. It has been in Wangjier village for many years. Wang Yu has played here with his friends since he was a child. The statue of the mountain god is very large, about 500 kilograms. There are many people in his group, and they are all young and strong men. It is not a problem to lift the mountain god statue. Stand up. With a shout, Wang Yu and a group of big men stood on both sides of the mountain god statue in order. The statue had been fixed long ago, with many ropes tied on it, and several strong wooden sticks inserted in the ropes. Wang Yu stood up and looked around, and he just stood under one of the mountain god's hands. If I remember correctly, there seemed to be a statue of Jintong under this hand. At that time, the shape was that the mountain god was stroking Jintong's head. Now he stood under it and replaced Jintong's position. Maybe it was to be moved, and the statue of Jintong was moved first, when you thought so. On your shoulders. Dad shouted, and then hit the gong in his hand heavily. Get up. Another gong sounded. Wang Yu and the big men worked together, and the mountain god statue was lifted up steadily. This offering ceremony at the temple gate, please move the mountain god and protect the villagers from good weather and good harvests. A gong sounded, and a shout came, fire the cannon, get going. A burst of firecrackers sounded outside the temple. Wang's father held a big gong in his hand, shouting as he walked, commanding the order of the team, boosting the morale of the crowd, and observing the direction of the action. Wang Yu and other big men began to follow Wang's father's steps. Wang's father looked at the team, and when he saw that the direction was to the left, he would hit the gong hard and say the left rope is on the right, and everyone would reply hi yo, and then lean to the left. If the direction was to the right, he would shout the right rope is on the left, and everyone would reply hi yo, and then lean to the left. Lean to the right. There are 4 young girls on both sides of the mountain god statue, holding lanterns and palm fans. Behind the statue, there is a person holding a canopy. The whole team moves forward with drums and music, which is very spectacular. After walking a flat path, we arrived at the foot of the mountain behind the village. This mountain has no name. The villagers have always called it the Back Mountain. Although the mountain is not high, it is rugged and difficult to walk. Many sections are winding and steep. Walking to a smooth and steep stone slope, this is the most difficult section of the mountain. Little guys, work hard. Hey yo. Wang Yu lifted it for a few minutes. Although he felt uncomfortable in his shoulders, he was very excited in this atmosphere. Wang's father's gongs sounded densely, and everyone used their greatest strength to gradually lift it up with the rhythm of 1, 2, 1, 2. The dozen warriors who carried the statue concentrated their energy to step steadily. With one go, the gongs and shouts continued, and the statue slowly went up. Wang Yu was sweating profusely, but he didn't dare to be distracted for a moment. With a cheer, "It's up!" Everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. Please take your place, God of the mountain. On the mountainside, on a flat area, there is a 1-meter-high stone platform. This is the place where the villagers found to rebuild the temple. Wang Yu breathed a sigh of relief and followed the team onto the stone platform. When everyone stood up, the statue had not been put down yet. At this time, Wang Yu couldn't hold on any longer. Wang's father placed offerings in front of the mountain god, lit incense and candles, and took out his watch to check. The auspicious time has arrived, light incense, and fire cannons. 3 incense sticks more than 1 meter long were inserted into the incense burner, and a string of firecrackers more than 10 meters long was lit, and the atmosphere gradually reached a climax. With the sound of a gong from Wang's father, the voices of the villagers also became lower. Fall. As the order was conveyed, Wang Yu was relieved, and it was finally over. Xiaoyu, be careful. Be careful of what? Wang Yu felt a sharp pain in his head before he could react. His eyes went black and he fainted on the spot. Wang's father watched the mountain god touch Jintong's right hand, which broke at the wrist. The more than 30-kilogram slap fell directly on Wang Yu's head below. As soon as the words of reminder came out, his son was knocked unconscious. Hurry up and save people. In a panic, Wang Yu also enjoyed the treatment of the statue of the god. He was carried down the mountain by several big men. Wang's father left a few village elders to continue to host the event, and followed Wang Yu to the hospital in a hurry. Where is the statue of Jintong? Where did you move it? After Wang's father left, several village elders searched everywhere, but they did not find the familiar golden boy statue. Hey! Tilda, do you think the golden boy statue is lost? The mountain god mistook the boy from the Wang family for the golden boy and was ready to slap him away. The villagers could not find the golden boy, and the most disgust was that Wang Yu was mistaken for the golden boy by the mountain god. However, Wang Yu's head was not as hard as the golden boy, and he could not hold up the hand of the mountain god, so he was knocked unconscious. At this time, Wang Yu felt that there was darkness in front of him, but his mental state was very good. Jintong, this time I have achieved the right result and returned to the fairyland, and the position of the mountain god will be passed to you. Wang Yu was confused when he heard the voice. Am I dreaming? What golden boy, mountain god? After the old voice fell, Wang Yu only saw a red token floating in front of him. It was written with the 4 characters, Heavenly Official Blessing. When he touched it, the token disappeared. Wang Yu only felt a sharp pain in his head, and then he fainted. But outside Wang Yu's body, there was a faint red light, covering his head, slowly healing his injured parts. How is my son? In the town hospital, Wang's father asked the doctor who had just examined him nervously. Don't worry, it's nothing serious, just some skin injuries. The boy is young and strong, and he will be fine in a few days. Then why hasn't he woken up yet? Wang's father asked worriedly. He only had this one son. Wang Yu had been bumped and bruised since he was a child, and he felt very distressed. If I had known, I would not have let this kid carry the statue. Oh. It's a temporary coma. Don't worry. He will wake up tomorrow morning at most. The doctor's words calmed Wang's father's heart. Uncle Wang, why don't you go back first? Auntie will be worried at home. Chunmai and I will stay here at night. The 2 girls holding lanterns beside the statue came here somehow. The girl who was talking was Song Yuran, and Chunmai was Wang's father's niece. Okay, call if you have anything. Wang's father looked at his son's ruddy face as if he was asleep, and he didn't think it was a big problem. Chunmai and Song Yuran, 2 girls, were taking care of him here, which was much better than himself and the other rough guys. At that moment, Wang's father left 2,000 yuan and left with the big men who helped. As soon as he got home, Wang's mother ran out after getting the news. His father, how is my son? The voice was anxious and the face was nervous. Chapter 9. A heart worried for 10 years. Slow down, don't get excited, my son is fine, Yuran and Chunmai are taking care of him, you can go there tomorrow morning. Wang's father comforted his wife. Why did you leave the two girls there? Wang's mother began to complain. Chunmai is my son's sister, and Yuran also grew up in our eyes. Why are you being polite? They are all family. Should I leave a few rough men there to take care of the patient, or should I, an old man, take care of him? Okay, you are right. Hearing that her son was fine and that reliable people were arranged to take care of him, Wang's mother was relieved. Coming to their house, Wang's father looked at the noodles on the table and immediately gobbled them up. He was really hungry after being busy for so long. His father, I have something to tell you. Originally, my son was going to tell you in person, but now that my son is like this, let me tell you. What's the matter? Wang's father put down the bowl, lit a cigarette and smoked it comfortably. My son is going to divorce with his daughter-in-law. The mother said that she began to wipe her tears secretly again. She was distressed by her son. When she thought of this, she felt wrong for her son. I also support my son's divorce. Tell me? Asked, the prince took the bowl. Coco and Xiaobao, not the son's daughter. Wang's father took the report. Although he couldn't understand the data on it, he still recognized the words, no blood relationship. Seeing that there was another sheet with these words written on it. The Chen family is too much. Wang's father was incredulous at first, then silent, and then suddenly slammed the table, his anger rising to the top of his head. Wang's father, who had met Chen Chuxing several times, had always disliked this relative. If he hadn't taken care of his son and daughter-in-law's face, he would have killed him long ago with his temper. Now that his son was bullied by them, Wang's father didn't want his son to divorce, but wanted to take people to the Chen family to kill them. Okay, you still think you were young and used fists to talk. Wang's mother gave her husband a helpless look. Let's just forget about it. Wang's father still wanted to ask for an explanation. Let's get a divorce first, and then see what our son says. After all, he's already 30, and we can't make a decision for him. Well, if this kid pretends to be a coward, I won't recognize him as my son. Wang's father left a word angrily, and turned to walk towards the village. After all, the two girls were still in the hospital taking care of his son, and he had to go to their house to express his gratitude. In the hospital, Chunmai held Yuran's hand, and the two girls whispered something. Yuran's face was red, and Chunmai had a malicious smile on her face. Xia, you still like my brother? Yeah. Yuran turned her head and didn't dare to look at Chunmai. Hey. You're 25 this year, and my brother has been married for so many years, and has 2 children. You're dragging it on for no end. Chunmai knew early on that her best friend had always liked her cousin. But in this situation, I have to persuade her. I can't watch my best friend live like an old maid. Can I find a way to help her be a mistress and live with her brother? Chunmai, my life was saved by Brother Yu. I will never marry anyone except Brother Yu in my life. When Yuran was 16, Wang Yu was 21. At that time, Wang Yu was at home during the summer vacation. My sister Chunmai begged him to take her to the back mountain to play, and Yuran next to him looked at him eagerly. Unable to bear the eyes of the 2 little girls, Wang Yu took them to the river in the back mountain to catch fish. The development of things after that was not so tortuous. Yuran was having fun and accidentally fell into the water. Chunmai was only 16 at the time, and she was definitely not able to save her. If she went down, she would only have one more soul. Wang Yu jumped into the river without hesitation, and after some operations, he successfully rescued Yuran to the shore. However, Wang Yu was saving people after all, so he didn't have so many thoughts at the time. In the water, he basically touched the girl's body wherever he should and shouldn't touch. After getting ashore, this simple-minded guy didn't think there was anything wrong, but from that time on, Yuran's heart was hung on him. Over the years, whenever Yuran recalled the scene of being rescued by Wang Yu in the river, she always felt great satisfaction in her heart. Every time Wang Yu came back from vacation, Yuran would beg Chunmai to take her to find Wang Yu, thinking that she would confess to Wang Yu when she was older. From the age of 16 to 18, Yuran also grew up to be a big girl. The girl's mind could no longer be suppressed, so she waited for Wang Yu to come back to their village on vacation to express her feelings. Yuran, who mustered up her courage, counted the days one by one. But Wang Yu brought back a girl from the city that year. The sweetness of the two broke Yuren's heart. Later, I heard that when you got married, bought a house in the city, and had 2 daughters. Since then, Yuren has been depressed all day long, and Chuanmei's persuasion is useless. The family wanted to introduce a date to her, but she refused to do so, and it has been delayed for many years. Seeing Wang Yu today, Yuren still restrained herself and kept a distance, and did not approach to talk. Until Wang Yu fell to the ground with blood all over his head, the so-called moral integrity had been thrown away by her. If Chunmai had not been quick to grab her, Yuren might have run over and hugged Wang Yu in her arms. At this time, the unconscious Wang Yu did not know that the little girl he rescued many years ago was still plotting against him. Yuren, don't be like this, it hurts me. Chunmai, don't persuade me, I like brother Yu, I really like him, and I will never get married in this life. Yuren's expression was very calm, but the loneliness in her eyes made Chuanmei's heart uncomfortable. Gently wiping the blood on Wang Yu's head with a towel, Yuren felt extremely satisfied. This was the closest time to Wang Yu in so many years. She cherished this night and every second of time. She was satisfied with having such an experience in her life. Seeing Wang Yu still handsome, the sunny boy of the year came to mind again. Chunmai looked at her best friend and didn't know what to do. She sighed and felt that fate had made her best friend lose her life. A little after 10 o'clock in the evening, Wang Yu woke up in a daze. When he opened his eyes, he saw a pair of loving eyes. Before he could take a closer look, the owner of the eyes turned his head away. Seeing Wang Yu wake up, Yuren pushed Chunmai, who was dozing off for fear of being seen. Chunmai, brother Yu is awake. I'm going to buy some food. You take care of him first. After saying that, he fled and walked out of the ward. Yuren leaned against the wall of the hospital, imagining countless scenes in her mind. Did brother Yu see me looking at him like that? Would he think I was not a good woman? Will he hate me? Will he ignore me? Thinking about it, I started to cry. Are you okay? The nurse asked when she saw Yuren crying alone. It's okay, it's okay. Yuren saw someone saw her crying, so she wiped her tears and left quickly. The nurse didn't ask much, thinking it was a family member of a patient who was worried about the condition of their loved one. Brother, what's wrong? Does your head still hurt? Chunmai helped Wang Yu up, touched his head and asked softly. Chapter 10 Heavenly Official S Blessing. It's okay, it doesn't hurt anymore. Wang Yu was very happy looking at his cousin. He still had so many relatives, and his betrayed wife was not so important in his heart. Who was the one who ran away just now? It was Yuren. Uncle asked us to take care of you here. Sister Yuren? Wang Yu remembered the girl who always followed him quietly. She went out to buy supper. Brother, your head is really hard. Such a big stone fell down and broke a layer of skin. Why, do you still want your brother to be hit into a fool? No, I just feel that your head is hard. Chunmai stuck out her tongue, a little embarrassed. At this time, the nurse came to check on Wang Yu and saw that Wang Yu woke up, so she immediately found the doctor on duty. The doctor came and checked and was also surprised at Wang Yu's recovery ability. When he came, there was so much blood on his head, and he thought it was at least a concussion. After the examination, it was found that the skin was broken. I thought that such a big stone would hit his head and he would not wake up until tomorrow at least. Who knew that he woke up in just a few hours? After the examination, it was found that except for the wounds on his head, the rest of this guy was completely normal. There was no sequelae of being hit. I was impressed that young people have good health. After a few instructions and 2 bottles of anti-inflammatory drugs, the doctor left. The nurse went out to get the medicine bottle and came to give Wang Yu an infusion. You are fine now. Your wife was crying outside just now. Come back and talk to her. Don't let her worry. After the injection, the nurse's inexplicable words made Wang Yu and Chunmai not know how to answer. It was Yuren who went out just now. She was crying at the door. Was she scared by my injury? Brother, do you want to call your sister-in-law? Chunmai quickly changed the subject, not wanting Wang Yu to think too much. At this time, Yuren, who went out to buy things, just walked to the door of the ward. No need, I'm getting a divorce, you don't have a sister-in-law now. Both parents knew about it, and Wang Yu didn't want to hide it from his cousin. Divorced, what's wrong, brother, why did you get divorced when everything was fine? Chunmai didn't know whether she should be happy or angry at this moment. Why ask so many questions? I'll get the divorce certificate in 2 days. Wang Yu didn't want to tell his cousin about his wife cheating on him. Okay, if you don't want to tell me, then don't tell me, but since you're divorced, I'll introduce you to a girlfriend. Chunmai felt that this was a rare opportunity and was ready to help her bestie. You haven't gotten married yet, what are you introducing to me? Wang Yu interrupted his cousin directly. I'm already engaged, and I'll have the wedding in a few months, and you're only 30, isn't it normal to get a divorce and find someone? We haven't gotten the divorce certificate yet, let's talk about it later. At this time, Yuren, who was eavesdropping, also pushed the door in. She pretended not to hear anything and walked over with a bag of food. Yuren, do you know that my brother is divorced? He is actually divorced. Chunmai said happily while holding Yuren's hand. Yuren, who had been pretending to be quite normal, was also broken at this moment. She was very excited, put down the bag, and had a lovely smile on her face. Wang Yu looked at the two girls and felt that they were mentally abnormal. He was divorced, but they were as happy as if it was the new year. Was he hit on the head, or were they hit on the head? Hey, Tilda, I said, I'm divorced, are you two so happy? Happy, why not? Chunmai was talking, and the corner of her clothes was pulled by Yuren. At that moment, she also knew that her behavior was a bit abnormal. Brother, I have long disliked that sister-in-law. She has not come back many times in so many years, and she doesn't care about uncle and aunt. Such a woman is not a life at all. Of course I am happy that you divorce her. What else can Wang Yu say? His cousin's words evoked his unfilial memories again. Now that I think about it, I feel that divorce is really something worth being happy about. Brother Yu, eat something first. Yuren took out the things in the bag. A big bowl of chicken soup, a few sesame cakes, and for stir-fried dishes made Wang Yu's appetite soar. Brother, I'm hungry too. I want to eat too. Chunmai pulled Yuren to sit next to the small table. Come on, let's eat together. This is enough for the three of us. The three of them gathered together and started eating. After dinner, Chunmai and Yuren went out to throw away the garbage and solve some personal problems. Wang Yu was the only one left in the ward. He was bored and was browsing his phone. A picture came to his mind. The auxiliary fairy weapon recognizes the master. This fairy weapon is the latest auxiliary system issued by the heaven to the land and mountain gods in the lower world. No immortal cultivation, just introduce who made the system. It can help users better bless mortals. The more blessings, the more rewards. At the same time, you can get merit points. When the merit points reach a certain level, you can ascend to the fairyland. During the system detection, suitable skills are issued according to the experience of the binder. Parents and children are not biological, old age is nothing, and the magical power of giving children you can choose gender is issued successfully. The society is too dangerous, women are very lonely, and men's self-defense skills are issued successfully. Maintain world peace, care for women's health, master the whole series of gynecology, and gynecology master are issued successfully. Current merit value 0. Produced by the 7th Foundry in the Heavenly Court, 100-year replacement, 1000-year warranty. Fuck. Wang Yu was confused. Was he stunned by the mountain god? Recalling carefully, it seemed that before he fainted, there was a voice saying that he was going somewhere and let Jintong take his place. And he seemed to remember seeing a token of blessing from a heavenly official. Could it be that the mountain god's merit points were full and he ascended to the fairyland at that time, and he happened to meet the villagers who moved him, and he happened to stand in Jintong's position? The mountain god mistook me for the golden boy and left the inheritance to me. Then what am I, a god preparing, a new generation of mountain god? Wang Yu was lost in thought and didn't notice the two girls coming back. Chunmai was shocked when she saw her cousin sitting on the bed with lifeless eyes. Would she really get hurt? She stretched out her hand and waved it in front of her cousin. Wang Yu only felt something approaching him and instinctively wanted to knock it off. When he started, he found that he had learned a lot of moves by accident. He unconsciously changed his palm into a fist and hit Chunmai's wrist. Then Wang Yu grabbed his wrist and was about to twist it upwards when he heard Chunmai's scream of pain. He reacted immediately. Looking at Chunmai covering her wrist and staring at him with big eyes. Wang Yu couldn't help but say, Wing Chun, IP man. Chunmai was so angry that she picked up the pillow and prepared to deal with Wang Yu, but was stopped by Yuren. Chunmai, brother Yu is still injured. HMPH, you just sighed with him. After having her pillow taken away, Chunmai sat on the chair angrily, moving her wrist. Cousin, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about the clip of Ip Man in my mind, and I couldn't help but try it when you stretched out your hand. Wang Yu licked his face and apologized to Chunmai. If you were thinking about the clip of Shapo Lang, would you have beaten me to death directly? No, come and let me show you. Wang Yu pulled Chunmai's wrist. Just now, he had confirmed that he really knew the men's self-defense skills. He also wanted to try the remaining gynecological magic and the power of childbirth. For the two girls in front of him, the power of childbirth is not suitable for either one, so he should try the gynecological magic first. Chapter 11: Wang Yu's gynecological magic. As soon as Wang Yu's hand was on Chunmai's wrist, Chunmai's physical condition immediately emerged in his mind. Overall, she is still very healthy, with a little gynecological inflammation and irregular menstruation. Then I looked at the treatment methods, and there are quite a few, which can cure diseases without taking medicine. Cousin, have you been feeling unwell recently? Yes, I feel a little unwell. How did you know? I have learned some Chinese medicine in recent years. I just felt your pulse and checked it. Chunmai still trusts her cousin, and asked nervously. Brother, is it serious? I won't get any disease, right? No, what are you thinking? It's just a little inflammation, caused by irregular menstruation. Then do you want to go see a doctor and take some medicine? Chunmai is still a little worried. No, I know a set of methods that can just treat your minor illness. You don't need to take medicine, and it will be cured in a while. Brother, are you sure you didn't fool me? Chunmai, who originally believed in Wang Yu, felt that her cousin was a bit like a liar. When have I ever fooled you? You will know if you try it again. Okay, I'll trust you once. If it doesn't work, I'll show you how I'll deal with you. Chunmai thought about it and felt that what her cousin said made sense. She would know after trying it. Come and lie down here. The treatment method is very simple. Just rub your lower abdomen, but the strength and technique are required. When you tried it for the first time and was very nervous, he thought it would be better to let Chunmai lie down. Yoren stood by and looked at Wang Yu with admiration. She didn't doubt whether Wang Yu's words were true at all. She believed everything he said. In her eyes, Wang Yu was excellent. At this moment, she knew that he could also do medicine. She felt inexplicably happy. Chunmai lay on the bed obediently. Wang Yu stood by the bed and couldn't do it for a while. It was summer and he was wearing thin clothes. Although it was Wang Yu was a little embarrassed to be his cousin. He took a towel and put it on Chunmai's abdomen, which calmed him down. He stretched out his right hand, pressed gently at first, and then began to knead from light to heavy, and then from heavy to light according to the method in his mind. Chunmai only felt her lower abdomen warm, and her fatigue was restored a lot, and her physical discomfort seemed to disappear suddenly. After about 10 minutes, Wang Yu stopped. Although there was a towel between them, the soft touch still made him feel very stressed. Brother, it's really good. Chunmai moved her body and felt better than ever before. Of course, when has your brother ever lied to you? Wang Yu saw that there was an effect, and he was also very satisfied with the effect of this gynecological master. Yoren, you were not feeling well a few days ago, and you went to the hospital for a checkup but nothing was found. Let my brother take a look at you. No need, I'm fine. Yoren was a little embarrassed. What's so good? Let my brother take a look. It's free. Chunmai took Yoren's hand and handed it to Wang Yu. Wang Yu didn't think much about it. He wanted to try his gynecological skills. Okay, no problem. I'll take a look at Yoren. He began to feel Yoren's pulse. Of course, this was all fake. As a gynecological master, he could check her physical condition, what disease she had, and the specific treatment method as long as he came into contact with a woman. However, it would be too bizarre to see a doctor like this. It's better to take the pulse. After all, pulse examination has been deeply rooted in people's hearts, and others won't think too much. Yoren's wrist was gently held by Wang Yu. The warm feeling made her nervous. Wang Yu didn't feel anything. Yoren's physical condition emerged in his mind. Compared to Chunmai, it was much worse. The lungs, there is a problem on the top, let's see how to deal with it. Although it is a bit difficult, Wang Yu feels that he can still handle it. But what is this palpitation? It is caused by long-term excessive thinking and being trapped by love, which leads to periodic heart pain. After looking at the treatment method, Wang Yu was completely confused. Heart disease needs to be treated with heart medicine. It can only be cured by starting with the patient's thoughts and worries, and combining medicinal diet and massage techniques. The ingredients and heat control of medicinal diet are very clear, and the massage techniques are not difficult for Wang Yu, but how can he start with this thought and worry? That your body is not very good. Wang Yu thinks that he should try medicinal diet and massage first, and as for this heart disease, he should wait. What's wrong, brother, is it serious? Chunmai looked more nervous than Yuren. Don't worry, it can be cured, it can be cured. Wang Yu said, and quickly took out his mobile phone and sent the medicinal materials needed for the medicinal diet to Chunmai, and also accurately marked the heat and time that needed to be paid attention to. Drink 1 bowl every night as above, and it will be fine in a month. It's that simple. Looking at the information on the phone, Chunmai felt that this didn't seem to be a treatment for a serious illness. It also needs some massage techniques. What are you waiting for? Treat Yuren quickly. I'll go to the pharmacy to see if there are any medicines. Chunmai ran out in a hurry. In the ward, Wang Yu looked at Yuren awkwardly. This massage technique was very different from Chunmai's. Some acupuncture points were more sensitive. Wang Yu looked more shy than Yuren at this moment. If she hadn't known that Wang Yu was going to divorce, Yuren might not have let Wang Yu massage her, but after knowing it, she became bolder and now she couldn't wait to have more contact with Wang Yu. Brother Yu, thank you for helping me with my treatment. How do you need me to cooperate? Looking at the graceful Yuren, Wang Yu felt that he had thought too much. After all, he was curing patients and saving lives. Doctors only have patience in their eyes, nothing else. Lie down first, I'll give you a massage. Yuren obediently lay on the bed, but her slightly trembling body betrayed her excitement. Wang Yu looked at Yuren. Her clothes were quite tight, and no flesh could be seen. But this curve was too much of a test of his concentration. Take a deep breath. Wang Yu felt that he should start from the shoulders. Who said that doctors only have patience in their eyes? Anyway, Wang Yu couldn't do it. In the past half an hour, Wang Yu's technique has gradually become more skilled, but he still feels a lot of pressure to be in close contact with Yuren. This meeting is finally over, and Wang Yu is almost exhausted. Okay, Yuren, feel if your body is better. Wang Yu turned his head and dared not look at Yuren. After all, the clothes soaked with sweat were tightly attached to his body. He dared not look, dared not think, just wanted to leave quickly. Much better. Although Yuren was very shy, she knew her thoughts clearly. Just now, she was massaged by Wang Yu, and her happiness was far greater than her shyness. Now she was much calmer than Wang Yu. What are you doing? Chunmai suddenly pushed the door in and looked at the two people in the ward. Their clothes were wet with sweat, and she couldn't help but have some special thoughts. I didn't do anything. I just finished the massage. I sweated so much from the massage. Yes, I'm tired. Then why did Yuren sweat so much? I'm tired too. Well, you are both very tired. Knowing that her cousin was going to divorce, did Yuren start to pursue her cousin? Something must have happened in the ward that she didn't know about. Chapter 12. Wang Yu runs away in the morning. Yuren pulled Chunmai over, looked at the medicine in her hand, knew it was for her, and drank it. Chunmai, I'm fine, you two go outside and get a room to rest. Oh, okay. Chunmai now had a lot of questions to ask Yuren, and it was inconvenient for Yuren to stay here like this. She left with her reluctant girlfriend. Wang Yu, who had slept for half the night, was not sleepy at this moment. He lay in bed until more than 5 in the morning, but couldn't fall asleep. He was just a little slow in reaction, but he was not an idiot. He had already thought clearly about Yuren's feelings for him. It was absolutely impossible for Yuren to say that she had no thoughts. Yesterday's massage, the little girl was under her hands. Well, it's a bit bad to think about these things, but it's really soft and the sound it makes is also very nice. After thinking too much, Wang Yu inevitably felt that his pants were a little tight. He cursed himself in his heart, hurried to the bathroom, and poured basins of cold water on himself. Suppressing his anger, Wang Yu thought he should slip away first, if Yuren came to him again today and asked him to treat her illness and massage. He couldn't guarantee that he could control himself. So it's better not to test men with beautiful women. It's hard for heroes to resist beautiful women. The words of our ancestors are too reasonable. After leaving the town hospital, Wang Yu took a taxi home, and he was nervous all the way. Just now, he sent a WeChat message to Chunmai, saying that there was something at the company and he had to go back first, and then asked her to handle the discharge procedures, and then he slipped away. Now he was really afraid that Chunmai would block him at the door of the hospital immediately after receiving the WeChat message. It seemed that the two girls were still asleep. After all, it was not yet 6 o'clock, and they left very late yesterday. After returning home, Wang Yu did not dare to go in. He stood at the door and shouted to the yard. "Mom, something happened at the company. I'm leaving first. I'll come back to see you in a few days." The mother's voice came from the room. Wang Yu did not hear clearly what she said. He got in the car and drove away with one foot on the accelerator. On the way back, Wang Yu's thoughts were flying. Yesterday, he felt that his life was bleak. This time, he looked at his wife's affairs, and he would not have any negative emotions except disgust. If you want to live a good life, life must be a little green. You can see how open-minded netizens are. Why should you go to extremes? Divorced, I still think about how to pursue that one blood girl. But thinking about the few contacts with her, it will be very difficult to win this girl. If it was yesterday, when you still had no confidence, but after being slapped by the mountain god, when you was full of confidence. Thinking of this, when you wanted to see if he had any merits for treating his sister and urine yesterday. When I opened the panel, I saw that it was quite a lot. My sister Chunmai contributed 1 point of merit. Although it was not much, Chunmai's illness was very mild, so it was good to give a little. But Yoren gave a lot, 10 points directly. It seemed that my massage was very effective. Congratulations to their host for getting 11 points of merit and being able to draw a reward. Wang Yu, who was just looking at it, found that he could also draw a prize. Thinking about the 3 rewards on his body, he immediately felt full of expectations. After clicking on the lottery, there was no fancy operation on the panel, and a book of the Heart Sutra of Bone Correction appeared directly. Wang Yu clicked to receive it, and like Wing Chun, a wave of information forced into his mind. Then Wang Yu had a deep understanding of this Heart Sutra of Bone Correction. This Heart Sutra is very powerful. After understanding it, Wang Yu felt that the bones of the human body were really like toys in his hands. It introduces in detail the characteristics and functions of various bones, and what techniques are needed to dismantle and assemble them. In short, after learning the Heart Sutra of Bone Correction, Wang Yu could easily deal with orthopedic diseases. Wang Yu, who was happy, received a call from Chunmai. He took out his phone and hung up. He replied that he was driving and threw the phone aside. My brother actually hung up my phone. I was so angry. Chunmai, it's okay. This is much better than before. I can finally pursue Brother Yu. Yoren was not disappointed by Wang Yu's secret departure. After all, more desperate things have accompanied her for so many years. Now this matter can't stop the girl's suppressed and hidden love. After returning to their community, Wang Yu thought about going downstairs to take a look, but thinking that he was going to get a divorce tomorrow, he should not make himself uncomfortable now. After dealing with his own troubles, he would go to pursue their first blood girl with a light load. However, what Wang Yu didn't expect was that if he had gone over and knocked on the door just now, he would see that the first blood girl he had been thinking about was packing up. It seems that she is going to go on a long journey. If he comes back tomorrow, he can only smell the smell. So brothers, you must be quick when chasing girls, otherwise many unexpected things will happen. Wang Yu walked around the room for a while, feeling bored, and decided to find a hospital to deal with the problem on his head. After all, he was just running away and had a thick gauze tied on his head. When he came to a nearby private hospital, Wang Yu looked up and saw Myriad Gynecological Hospital, and he hesitated. It's not good for a grown man like me to go to a gynecological hospital, so let's go to another place. Before he left, an ambulance stopped beside him, and Wang Yu could smell the burnt smell of the tires rubbing against the ground. Then, the back door of the ambulance opened, a strong male nurse jumped out, and then a stretcher was pushed out. There was a little boy lying on the stretcher, but at this moment the little boy closed his eyes tightly, and there was blood on his head and body. Behind the stretcher followed a woman who was crying heartbreakingly. She looked rich or noble, with fair skin and a good figure, but at this moment, Wang Yu couldn't tell whether she looked good or not with tears on her face. Wang Yu, who was about to leave, suddenly thought of the little boy. It seemed that he had been hit by a heavy object, and many of his bones must have been broken. If he could cure him, his merit would soar. He immediately followed him into the emergency room. The doctors and nurses inside looked at the bandage on Wang Yu's head and thought that he was also a patient who needed emergency treatment, so no one drove him out. They were all busy with the little boy inside. When he was first sent here, the boy's condition was too dangerous. If he hadn't arrived in time, the boy might have lost his life due to excessive blood loss. Although he was rescued now, the situation was still not optimistic. The little boy had multiple comminuted fractures of his bones, and the bones of his legs were broken. The broken ends all pierced through the flesh, and the white bone stumps could be seen outside. "How is it? How is my son?" A middle-aged man who looked very fair walked into the hall of the emergency room in a hurry. At this moment, the anxious and nervous voice made the lady who was sitting on the chair and emotionally collapsed regain some reason. "Xiao Jie was hit by a car and is still being rescued." "Woohoo, husband, I didn't take good care of Xiao Jie." "Zhu Yang, don't cry, Xiao Jie will be fine." Although the man was also very upset, he still spoke to comfort his wife when he saw her like this. "Who is the child's family member?" A middle-aged doctor wearing a mask, a little fat, and with a Mediterranean head came over and asked. "I am the child's father, doctor, how is my son?" "The child's condition is very dangerous and needs to be amputated immediately, otherwise his life will be in danger." "What, amputation?" the man murmured in disbelief. Zhu Yang, who was walking next to him, collapsed to the ground when he heard the sound. Chapter 13. The former boy is back, and the sense of justice still exists. Wang Yu, who was next to him, was also shocked when he heard the words. "Fuck. Is it so serious?" The little boy Wang Yu just looked quite cute. Thinking that such a young child was about to lose his legs, his mood sank inexplicably. To save him, Wang Yu, who has a strong sense of justice since childhood, has forgotten that his purpose is to earn merit points. He now wants to save the child. Besides, Zhu Yang and her husband are both in their 40s, and this child is probably their youngest son. If the child is really amputated, their family will live in grief in the future. Looking at Zhu Yang, who fainted on the ground, Wang Yu immediately ran over. As soon as his hands touched her, Zhu Yang's physical condition emerged in his mind. Shock caused by extreme sadness, treatment methods. Multiple miscarriages in the uterus, currently infertile, treatment methods. Weak body, multiple organs began to fail, treatment methods. Looking at Zhu Yang's physical condition, Wang Yu couldn't help but be shocked. Looking at the woman's physical condition, if his son is really amputated, he probably won't live for a few years. This child must be saved, otherwise it's a life. At that moment, Wang Yu stretched out his hand and pressed Zhu Yang's temple a few times, and then vigorously stimulated several acupuncture points on her back to activate the body's immune system, and Zhu Yang slowly woke up. The man who was about to push Wang Yu away so that Wang Yu's technique was professional and quick, and he was obviously treating his wife, so he retracted his outstretched hand. However, looking at the gores on Wang Yu's head, he felt that this guy was unreliable. "What are you doing?" Hai Di saw Wang Yu squeezed him aside and was still treating Zhu Yang. "Isn't this stealing his job?" Wang Yu did not answer, because Zhu Yang had woken up at this time. After helping Zhu Yang up and handing her to her husband, Wang Yu said to him, "I can treat your child's injury. Not only does he not need to amputate, I can also make him fully recover, and he can grow up healthily like other children in the future." "Mr. Tang, don't listen to this kid's nonsense." Hai Di obviously knew the identity of Zhu Yang's husband and immediately stopped him. "Hong Yuan, this guy can save Xiao Jie, let him go and treat him." At this time, Zhu Yang had completely lost her mind. When she heard Wang Yu's words, she immediately regarded them as a life-saving straw, without even a doubt in her heart. "Young man, you didn't lie to me. You can really save my son's leg." Tang Hongyuan was not so calm at this time. Although he also doubted Wang Yu's words, it was related to his son after all, and he also held a glimmer of luck in his heart, just in case he could really cure it. This mentality is like many terminally ill patients. They are obviously very clear about their physical condition, but they are still willing to believe in some so-called folk remedies and superstitious things. Always holding a lucky mentality, just in case it can really be cured, Tang Hongyuan also had this idea at this time. "Mr. Tang, I can really cure it, and you can also watch by your side. If you feel that my treatment is not good, you can stop it directly." Wang Yu understood the mentality of the child's parents very well, and did not think about pretending to be 13 or something, and was willing to let them watch him treat himself. Okay, I promise you, I will treat my child now. If you can really cure my son, I, Tang Hongyuan, will owe you a life. Wang Yu didn't care about such a promise. After all, his real idea was to save the child. Even if he didn't give himself anything, he would go back to treat him. No, this is a hospital. You are not a doctor in our hospital. I can't let you treat the wounded here. Hai Di didn't care about Tang Hongyuan's identity at this time and stopped him immediately. Although he didn't believe that Wang Yu could save the child's legs at such a young age, how could he allow others to run wild in his own territory? Let's not talk about whether the treatment is good or not. If Wang Yu enters the emergency room today, it means that he has failed in his duty and his face is also lost. I said, what do you want to do? It's not your son, so you don't feel sorry for him. I'm talking to the child's father. What's your business? Looking at Hai Di jumping up and down, Wang Yu was also a little angry. Bullshit, I'm worried that you can't cure it and delay the child's surgery time, and then his life will be in danger. That's right, our Dr. Wang is a well-known surgical expert in the province. Even he is not sure that he can save the injured's legs. You, an unknown outsider, can cure it well. Do you have a medical qualification certificate? I now suspect that you are a liar. Why do you have gauze wrapped around your head? Did you get beaten by someone for cheating? A little nurse with acne on her face stood beside Dr. Wang and accused Wang Yu. After saying that, she secretly glanced at the Mediterranean Sea beside her. I don't have a medical qualification certificate, but my bone-setting technique can completely cure your child. As long as you believe me, I can save his legs in half an hour at most. Wang Yu couldn't refute the nurse's words, and it seemed that this Mediterranean was a well-known surgical expert. He didn't know whether the couple opposite would let him treat their son. Looking at the arguing people, Tang Hongyuan also regained his composure. He still knew this Mediterranean. Although this hospital is named a gynecological hospital, it is a private hospital after all, and the purpose of profit is very strong. All departments are very complete, and well-known experts are hired to sit in. Of course, the price of medicine is also very expensive, and ordinary people can't afford it at all. So in the eyes of ordinary people, it is just an ordinary gynecological hospital, but the wealthy class in Shuju City knows that this is the best hospital in the city, and they like to come here for medical treatment. Dr. Wang, I know your name. I want to ask if there is no hope for my son's legs. Tang Hongyuan's tone was very heavy. Mr. Tang, I have been practicing medicine for more than 30 years. I don't know how many operations of all sizes have been performed. In your son's case, there are many doctors who can save his life. But there is no one who can save your son's legs. Even if those experts from Kyoto compound come, it will be useless. Distance is very confident in his medical skills. Wang Yu's face looked a little ugly, and it seemed that the child's father did not agree to his treatment. Husband. Zhu Yang also looked at her husband at this time, waiting for him to make a decision. Young man, my reason tells me that I can't trust you, but my son's situation makes me really want to trust you. You have to think clearly. If you really lied to me, the result is not something you can bear. Wang Yu didn't care much about Tang Hongyuan's threats. After all, if this scene was changed to himself, he would definitely not believe a passerby who didn't even have the qualifications to practice medicine. Don't worry, Mr. Tang, you will be very glad for your choice. Looking at Wang Yu's confident look, Tang Hongyuan also made up his mind. Dr. Wang, please arrange it. Whether my son can be cured or not, I will pay 1 million yuan. Mediterranean originally wanted to refuse, but when he heard that he could get 1 million as long as he agreed, he immediately shut up. The nurse beside him also looked at Tang Hongyuan in disbelief. It's not uncommon for their hospital to spend millions, but it's the first time they've seen someone willing to pay 1 million just to let an outsider treat a patient here. Chapter 14. This bone setting is really not simple. Money makes things easier. Tang Hongyuan generously promised to pay 1 million, and the Mediterranean cooperated and began to make arrangements. When Wang Yu arrived at the emergency room, he saw that the child's clothes had been taken off and he was lying naked on the operating table. The bleeding on his body had also stopped, and the numbers jumping on the instrument next to him also showed that the child's condition was very unstable. Seeing his son like this, even Tang Hongyuan, who had experienced many storms, couldn't help crying. As for his wife Zhu Yang, Tang Hongyuan didn't let her in at all. He was afraid that his wife would faint again after seeing his son's miserable appearance. "Give me a pair of gloves, just a little thinner." Wang Yu came to the child and reached out to touch the child's head first. Unfortunately, his brain did not show his physical condition. At the signal of Dr. Wang, the little nurse brought a pair of surgical gloves. After Wang Yu put them on, he began to slowly touch the child's body. He touched very carefully and comprehensively, without missing any part. It was not until Wang Yu had examined all the more than 200 bones in the child's body that he had a detailed understanding of the child's condition. "Mr. Tang, the child has 8 broken ribs, a fractured left arm, a fractured scapular, spiral comminuted fractures below the calves, and multiple bone dislocations on the body." Wang Yu briefly introduced the child's condition. When Hai Di heard this, he was stunned. He had taken more than 10 films to determine the child's condition, but this guy diagnosed and treated it all with his hands. "Please." Tang Hongyuan wanted to say something, but in the end he only said a few words. The child was like this, and threats or requests for help were useless. Wang Yu nodded and turned around to start treatment. Wang Yu, who has the heart of bone correction, is not at all intimidated by the child's injuries at this moment. He started with the ribs first. After all, this place is too close to the internal organs, and he is afraid that it will cause other troubles if he spends too much time on it. Wang Yu's hands were flexible, and he pinched or pressed the child's body with swift movements. As his hands passed, the protruding or concave parts slowly returned to flatness. The whole process was smooth and the people around were stunned. It took less than 3 minutes for Wang Yu to perfectly connect the 8 broken ribs. At this time, Hai Di also knew that Wang Yu was extraordinary, and took an instrument to help check the child's recovery. Looking at the instrument showing that the child's ribs were connected well, Hai Di's eyes widened, and he didn't know how to express his emotions for a while. After treating the ribs, Wang Yu then began to restore all the dislocated parts, which was a piece of cake for him. After doing these, he began to connect the shoulder blade. This bone is very different and difficult to treat. The bone area is large, but it is very thin, and it is easy to have problems when connecting. But these are not a problem for Wang Yu. After a series of operations, not only did he initially cure the shoulder blade, but he also cured the injured arm. Next is the most difficult legs. Wang Yu felt a little uncomfortable looking at the exposed bone fragments. How much suffering this child had suffered. Although both legs were spiral comminuted fractures, it was still possible to distinguish the severity. Wang Yu first corrected the protruding bones of the right leg and tapped the scattered bone fragments with his fingers. After tapping the fractured parts with his fingers for hundreds of times, Wang Yu had an idea that there were more than 30 bone fragments. If it was a regular treatment, amputation would be a certainty, because no one could connect so many bone fragments one by one in the body. Even if they were connected, they could not be healed together again. But Wang Yu could do it. He silently numbered more than 30 bone fragments in his mind, and Wang Yu began to reset the first bone fragment. It was very difficult, and Wang Yu was also very strenuous. After all, it was still very difficult to move such a small bone fragment in the flesh and blood. Soon Wang Yu was sweating profusely, and Mediterranean signaled the nurse beside him to help wipe the sweat. At this time, he also realized that this young man could really save the child's legs. This was simply a medical miracle. Wang Yu did not dare to stop for a moment. He had to align more than 30 broken bones in one breath. If he stopped for a long time, the ones that were aligned before might be scattered again with the movement of muscles. Tang Hongyuan was very glad for his decision at this moment. This young man was really a capable person. Although he did not know medical skills, judging from the change in the attitude of the Mediterranean and the nurse next to him, his son had a great chance of saving his legs. After about 20 minutes, Wang Yu finally aligned the last broken bone. He exhaled deeply, his whole body was exhausted, and the high intensity of mental concentration made him unable to raise any strength after relaxing. "Hurry up and put on the plaster. This leg can only be moved after a month." Dr. Wang no longer looks arrogant. He acts quickly like a college student who has just started his internship. Wang Yu looked at the nimble Dr. Wang and felt relieved. Although he was not able to save the child's legs, his medical skills were not bad. He was nimble and accurate. He was an old hand. The title of surgical expert was still valuable. "Mr. Tang, this leg has been saved. The remaining one is more troublesome. I don't know if I can do it, but I can guarantee that there is no need for amputation. Wang Yu overestimated his ability. At the end of the treatment, his fingers began to tremble unsteadily. If he treated the left leg with more broken bones now, he had no confidence that he could complete the connection. It's okay, young man. I won't blame you. You have tried your best. Seeing Wang Yu's miraculous skills, Tang Hongyuan knew clearly that this young man really wanted to help him. After all, his child saved one leg, and the other leg can be left. Even if he becomes a cripple in the future, it is much better than having no legs. This, I can help. Dr. Wang, who had just finished applying the plaster, volunteered at this moment. Wang Yu looked back and felt that there was a chance. He asked Dr. Wang to move the broken bones to the vicinity of the fracture first, and then he would connect them, which would undoubtedly save a lot of effort. Okay, then I'll trouble Dr. Wang. Can it work? Tang Hongyuan asked a little worriedly, and he doubted Dr. Wang's medical skills. It shouldn't be a big problem. Dr. Wang's medical skills are still very good. Dr. Wang was very excited when he heard what Wang Yu said. He was really happy to be recognized by someone who was better than him. Then I'll leave it to you too. It's definitely better to be cured than to be a cripple. Seeing Wang Yu say yes, Tang Hongyuan was full of hope. The first time is new, the second time is familiar. Wang Yu's examination of the left leg was obviously much faster. It was almost the same as he imagined. There were more than 50 broken bones in total, and it was very difficult to connect them. After understanding the location, Wang Yu and Dr. Wang started a discussion. The two of them deduced the location of the broken bones and the method and way of moving them. Of course, most of the time, Wang Yu was talking and Dr. Wang was listening. After talking about a broken bone, Wang Yu would ask Dr. Wang if he was sure. Chapter 15. Come to our hospital for a 5 million annual salary. The two were like a master teaching an apprentice. Dr. Wang listened to the techniques and treatment methods Wang Yu talked about and admired them very much. While asking for advice humbly, he expressed his opinions appropriately. Through communication with Dr. Wang, Wang Yu also clearly understood his level. He had rich treatment experience and a solid foundation. Wang Yu was very confident about the following treatment. After finalizing the plan, Wang Yu's mental state was almost restored, and the two people were about to start formal treatment. Under Wang Yu's guidance, Dr. Wang began to little by little the broken bones were moved slowly, and when they moved to the broken place, Wang Yu took over to piece them together in the right place. Both of them were very careful and did not dare to relax at all. Several nurses who cooperated with them wiped their sweat nervously. Time passed bit by bit, and the broken bones were pieced together piece by piece. When there were only a few broken bones left, Dr. Wang could not hold on any longer. His fingers trembled involuntarily, and he seemed to be exhausted and could not use any strength. Wang Yu looked at him comfortingly and motioned him to rest. Dr. Wang was a little ashamed. He, an expert, it's really a waste of so many years. The young man in front of me does a more difficult and meticulous job than me, and the effort he spends is for more than mine. Now I can't even keep up with his pace. But there's nothing I can do about it. Who can blame my poor medical skills and my body for not being able to keep up? Wang Yu was very satisfied with Dr. Wang. After all, he helped him a lot. He was already very impressed that he could stick to it for so long. Wang Yu was very confident that he could connect the remaining bones in one go. Tang Hongyuan was very nervous when he saw Dr. Wang slumped in the chair. After all, his son, whether the son can recover his health depends on whether Wang Yu can hold on. Wang Yu's hands are very steady, and he is not nervous because he lost the cooperation of Dr. Wang. He is more focused than ever before. He successfully docked a piece of broken bone in his hands, and then started another one. He is like a machine, with a stable rhythm and smooth completion of the docking of broken bones. The sweat on his face and the fatigue on his body do not seem to affect him at all. After more than 10 minutes, Wang Yu finally docked the last piece of broken bone. He collapsed to the ground. Put on the plaster quickly. After saying that, he sat on the ground and gasped. Dr. Wang, who has recovered a little strength, has already prepared the materials in his hands. He did not hesitate and quickly carried out the next work. Young man, my son's leg is saved. Tang Hongyuan asked anxiously. He didn't know whether his son's treatment was completed at the moment, and was afraid of getting bad news from Wang Yu. But if he didn't ask, his heart, which had nowhere to rest, would not be at peace. Fortunately, the child's legs were successfully connected, and it will not affect normal activities and life in the future. Wang Yu said, laughing happily. This treatment was also a baptism of the soul for him. Looking at the child who was spared from amputation in his hands, Wang Yu was happy from the bottom of his heart. Thank you, thank you. Hearing Wang Yu's answer, Tang Hongyuan couldn't keep his composure. He was very excited and kept thanking him. After applying the plaster, Dr. Wang asked the nurse to give the child a comprehensive examination. After a while, the examination results came out. Looking at the broken bones that were perfectly connected on the film, Dr. Wang and the nurses admired Wang Yu from the bottom of their hearts. Mr. Tang, your son is really cured. From the film, the broken bones are perfectly connected. Every piece of broken bone is perfectly connected. In a few months, he will be able to walk on the ground. Not a few months, 1 month. Wang Yu stood up and said, I'll prescribe a prescription. You follow the prescription twice a day, morning and evening, drink it for a month, and the child will be able to walk on the ground. As he said, Wang Yu asked the nurse for paper and pen, wrote more than a dozen Chinese medicines on it, and wrote the method of boiling, and handed it to Tang Hongyuan. I haven't asked for your name yet. Tang Hongyuan asked solemnly after taking the prescription. My name is Wang Yu. Don't say benefactor or anything. I just did my part. Oh, Dr. Wang is actually my relative. Dr. Wang came over to chat with Wang Yu despite his boldness. The nurse cleaned the blood stains on the child and prepared to transfer him to the ward. Tang Hongyuan wanted to stay and talk to Wang Yu for a few more words, but he was worried about his son, so he quickly thanked him and left with the nurse. Dr. Wang, please help me. Dr. Wang, what do you want? Please help me take the gauze off my head. Wang Yu only remembered the purpose of coming to the hospital at this time. The gauze on his head was tangled in a criss-cross pattern, and it was not very convenient for him to remove it by himself. It's a small matter, a small matter. Dr. Wang said as he began to help Wang Yu remove the gauze. After the gauze on his head was removed, Wang Yu felt relieved. He moved his head and felt that nothing was wrong. He said hello to Dr. Wang and prepared to leave. As soon as he walked to the door, he saw Zhu Yang running over and kneeling in front of him. Wang Yu hurriedly took 2 steps forward to help her up. He really didn't want to accept such a great gift. Today, Zhu Yang experienced great sorrow and joy. She was heartbroken when her son was hit by a car, collapsed when she knew that her son had to be amputated in the hospital, and then held onto the expectation of tiny hope. Until the end, the joy of her son's legs being completely saved made this mother no longer care about her usual dignity. She just wanted to kneel down and kowtow to Wang Yu. Several people came to express their gratitude. Helping Zhu Yang up, Wang Yu comforted her gently. At this time, Tang Hongyuan and several people also came over. Seeing Wang Yu, Tang Hongyuan immediately stepped forward to express his gratitude again. The son was finally obtained by him and his wife after more than 10 years of hard work and trying all kinds of methods at the age of 40. Today, he almost became a cripple. Under this blow, his wife is likely to be unable to hold on. And his son is disabled, and then he loses his wife, and the whole family will be broken up. The young man in front of him not only saved his son but also his family that was almost broken. Mr. Wang is a great doctor. I wonder which hospital he works in. A middle-aged man in a well-dressed suit and black-framed glasses asked with a smile. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Han Kuan, the director of Myriad Hospital. Director Han is too polite. I am not a medical worker. This treatment also uses the family bone setting technique. I am not worthy of being called a master. Wang, you said that, where can I put my old face? Dr. Wang also complimented Wang Yu at this time. Mr. Wang, I want to hire you to work in our hospital, with an annual salary of 5 million. How do you feel? This Han Kuan is worthy of being the director of a private hospital. When he sees someone with excellent medical skills, he directly swings his hoe. Well, I don't have a medical qualification certificate. Wang Yu wanted to come when he heard it, and he not only mastered the heart meridian of bone correction, but also had the title of gynecological master, so it should be no problem to be a doctor. And after this incident, he also likes the feeling of curing diseases and saving lives. If the other party can solve the problem of his medical qualification, then he doesn't object to coming here to work. That's no problem, our hospital will solve it, as long as Mr. Wang agrees to come. As the director, Han Kuan is still very capable, and it is not difficult for him to solve the medical qualification. Okay, but I have to wait for me to deal with something first. How about coming back in 2 days? Wang Yu was thinking about divorcing his wife tomorrow, so he had nothing to do in the afternoon so he could go to the company to resign. Chapter 16 Breaking up with the company. Brother Wang, please stay. Seeing Wang Yu leaving, Tang Hongyuan stepped forward immediately. Just now, there were many people, so it was not convenient for him to take out the gifts he had prepared. Now, seeing that Wang Yu had finished talking with the hospital and the people had dispersed, he came over. Mr. Tang has something to do. Wang Yu asked curiously. Brother Wang, you are too polite. You saved my son, and I haven't thanked you properly yet. Oh, how are you going to thank me, Mr. Tang? Wang Yu was not a lei-feng character. If Tang Hongyuan didn't express his gratitude, he wouldn't ask for anything. After all, he didn't save the child for any benefit. But since Tang Hongyuan had chased him to express his gratitude, he certainly wouldn't refuse. I don't know what Brother Wang likes, and I'm a bit cliché. Please don't refuse this 10 million. Tang Hongyuan said as he handed over a check for 10 million. When you felt that this guy might give money just now. From his generous promise of 1 million in the hospital, he felt that this guy was very rich. But he never thought that the other party would give him 10 million directly. He liked this kind of thought too much. However, he still had to maintain a good attitude. A gentleman loves money and gets it in a proper way. Thinking so in his heart, his body was very honest. When you took the check, looked at it and put it directly into his wallet. Then I will accept it with pleasure. Mr. Tang is so polite. I will help you for free. When you felt a little embarrassed after receiving so much money. He immediately thought about helping Zhu Yang treat her body, which was also worthy of the two of them. Oh, what do you want to help me with? Tang Hongyuan was a little curious. Actually, I am best at gynecology. I am sure I can cure your wife's condition. When you pretended to be a little bit stupid. You know my wife's problem. When I supported her just now, I took her pulse. Your wife just had habitual miscarriage, which led to infertility. I can solve it. When you said it very easily. Tang Hongyuan was struck by lightning when he heard it. His wife's health took up a lot of his energy. The couple had visited any famous experts at home and abroad, but they had been busy for more than 10 years and still could not cure the disease. Every time his wife got pregnant, he was very careful, but the result was the same. She would miscarry within 3 months, and staying in the hospital could not solve the problem. It was not until she was 40 years old that she asked someone to find a doctor in the Kyoto compound. It cost a lot to save the baby, and the couple had a son. If he had heard Wang Yu say this before, Tang Hongyuan would definitely not believe it, but after seeing the process of his son's treatment, he believed it without a doubt. The man opposite was not a boaster. If he said he could cure it, he would definitely cure it. Thank you, Brother Wang. Tang Hongyuan did not make any promises. After all, others had promised to help him. If he paid for it again, wouldn't it be a bit hypocritical? I will come to this hospital to work the day after tomorrow. I will help your wife. You can accompany your son for the next 2 days. This is my business card. Brother Wang, you can contact me if you have any questions. Tang Hongyuan put a black card with gold edges on the ground. When you took it and saw that it was really high-end and made of metal. I don't have a business card. I'll call you. Please write down the number. When you dialed the number on the business card. After Tang Hongyuan's phone rang, Wang Yu hung up. I have something to do in the afternoon. I'll leave first. Brother Wang, see you the day after tomorrow. After that, Wang Yu left. Tang Hongyuan kept watching Wang Yu leave, then saved his number in his phone, turned around and walked quickly to the ward. He wanted to tell his wife the good news. Driving to the company, Wang Yu was still very happy. Today, he not only found a job with an annual salary of 5 million, but also got a check for 10 million. However, the money in the check has been transferred to the bank card opened by his mother's identity. After all, they haven't divorced yet, so it's better to be careful. Now he has the confidence to tell the boss that he doesn't want to serve anymore. When Wang Yu came to the Human Resources Department, he hadn't submitted his resignation yet, and Liu Ruyan, the head of the Human Resources Department, notified him that he was fired by the company. Wang Yu, who was confused, followed Liu Ruyan to complete various formalities, and then inexplicably received a compensation of 1 million and signed a contract that he could not work in this industry for life. Looking at this contract, he thought about the promotion of the general manager yesterday and the inexplicable conditions. Wang Yu also found that something was wrong. The Chen family is taking action against me, but it is not right. Although the Chen family is rich, the strength of my company is not weak. There is no need to give face to the Chen family. Wang Yu was a little confused, but it didn't matter. He came to resign, and he received a compensation of 1 million for no reason. Isn't this good? Although the document that prohibits him from working in this industry for life is full of traps, it doesn't matter. Wang Yu has a doctor's career with an annual salary of 5 million, and he has no intention of staying in this industry. After completing the formalities, Wang Yu was invited to Mr. Zhang's office. Looking at Mr. Zhang, who was still sitting and drinking tea, Wang Yu's back stiffened a little. In the past, I was his subordinate and had to bow my head for a living, but now that the formalities have been completed, I have nothing to do with this company and I don't have to look at his face anymore. Wang Yu, there are some things I can't say clearly, but I still want to advise you, young people, don't be impulsive. The formalities have been completed. Isn't it too late for Mr. Zhang to say these things? You said I'm a young man, so isn't it logical to be impulsive? Hey! Tilder, it's not my intention to fire you. People in the world can't help themselves. Although I am the general manager, there are still several directors above me. Mr. Zhang is indeed an old fox. His words are flawless and he pushed the responsibility cleanly. But Wang Yu didn't care about these. He just watched this guy perform quietly. I have a few companies here. If you are interested, I can recommend you to them as compensation for you. Mr. Zhang pushed over a few documents. Wang Yu took a look and saw, oh. Tilder, these companies are very familiar. Aren't they all companies that have close cooperation with the current company? This guy is so kind. How about it, which one do you like? What's the point of liking it? The contract has been signed. I can't work in this industry for life. If I go to these companies, the compensation is 5 million. Mr. Zhang, you won't trick me, right? Don't worry, as long as I turn a blind eye, the compensation is just nonsense. Just go boldly. Fuck you, you think I'm an idiot? Tell me what benefits the Chen family gave you to let you cheat me like this. The Chen family is nothing in my eyes. Since you have found out, I'm not afraid to tell you, kid, there are some people you can't afford to offend. If you obey, you can still have a mouthful of soup. If you don't obey, the result will be you can't bear it. Oh, it seems that Mr. Zhang is an obedient dog. Keep your mouth clean, otherwise I will ban you from the whole industry and make you unable to find a job sweeping the streets in Shuju City. Stupid, I still have dozens of acres of land at home. I'm going back to farm. If you have the ability to buy my land, I will thank you very much. But you look down on the Chen family so much, which means that the one who is against me is my wife's adulterer, a shameful thing, a rat in the gutter. I will teach him a lesson if he is caught. Okay, I will let you know what trouble comes from the mouth. Now get out of here. Chapter 17, Encountering the Ex-Mother-in-Law. Oh, there is another thing I want to tell you. Wang Yu ignored Mr. Zhang's anger. He took out his resignation letter and waved it in front of Mr. Zhang and said, I originally came here to resign today, but I didn't expect Mr. Zhang to be so good to me. Not only did he pay me 500,000 yuan in compensation, he also gave me 500,000 yuan in confidentiality fees. Thank you very much for this 1 million. After saying that, Wang Yu turned around and left happily, leaving Mr. Zhang alone in the wind. Walking out of the company, Wang Yu was in a good mood. He thought about getting a divorce tomorrow morning and going to find his first blood girl in the afternoon. Should I prepare some gifts? It's not appropriate to go with 2 fists clenched, it's not like he's going to collect debts. Thinking about it, he decided to go to the mall to have a look. Although he didn't know what the first blood girl liked, it was always good to bring some gifts. Coming to the largest mall in Shu City, Wang Yu was a little emotional. Every time he came here, he was with Chen Yuting. This time he came alone, and bought gifts for another woman. Thinking about it, he sighed at the twists and turns of life. However, people should look forward. The lost love should be swept into the garbage dump of history. He still has many people who need to accompany and cherish. When Wang Yu arrived at the mall, he went straight to the jewelry store and looked at the various jewelry displayed in the counter. As a relatively straight man, he didn't know which one to choose for a while. Should I listen to what is said on the internet and only choose the expensive ones instead of the right ones? With this idea, Wang Yu came to the most high-end women's jewelry store in the mall. There are not only precious metal jewelry such as gold and platinum, but also precious jewelry such as jade, gemstones, and jade. Looking at the prices, Wang Yu, who has 10 million in his pocket, can't help but snicker. Damn, none of them are below 6 figures. Although there are few above 7 figures, there are also a few in each counter. As for the ones displayed on a single counter, none of them are less than 10 million. Wang Yu now understands a little bit of the enjoyment of the rich. When I married my wife and knew their family property, I thought they were a big family in Suzhou City. But after a few years of social experience, he also realized that although the Chen family is considered a wealthy family in Suzhou City, its total assets are not among the top 10 in Suzhou City. However, these have nothing to do with him. After tomorrow, they will be people from 2 different worlds. From now on, they will be separated and will not interfere with each other. Looking at the exquisite jewelry in the counter and the long list of numbers, Wang Yu gave up the idea just now. There was no way his strength would not allow it. Sir, is there anything I can help you with? The clear voice with a professional tone made Wang Yu retract his gaze. Looking back, he saw a young and beautiful girl standing beside him with a smile. A badge was hung on her full chest, with the word internship on it, which let Wang Yu know her identity. As Wang Yu bought such expensive jewelry for the first time, of course he didn't know how to choose. The waiter who appeared at this time undoubtedly helped him solve the current confused situation. He didn't dislike the person in front of him who was still in the internship period, and immediately expressed his thoughts. I want to buy a piece of jewelry as a gift, but I don't know how to choose. Can you give me some advice? Sir, what age group of women do you need to give it to? Is it your lover or your relatives? When you heard this and began to think about Wenshin's appearance. She seemed to be in her 30s, but her skin and figure felt like she was in her early 20s. He couldn't make up his mind for a while. Well, it's the woman I'm pursuing, about 25 years old. When you felt that what he saw was not as good as what he touched. Maybe Wenshin was just dressed more maturely, and her figure and skin could better reflect her age. After all, she was very smooth. Sir, do you have any requirements for the price? The waiters in this store are very professional. Even if they are interns, they know to determine the financial strength of the buyer first. Otherwise, it would be useless to say something exaggerated if the other party has empty pockets. Choose a bracelet, about 1 million, the price should not be too different. Thinking about the 1 million he got for no reason, when you felt that he didn't feel bad about spending it. It was also his sudden decision to choose a bracelet. After all, he didn't dare to give a ring, and he didn't like the necklace very much, so it was better to buy a bracelet. When the intern girl heard this, her eyes lit up. According to the content of her training, the man in front of her had a great probability of buying intentions. Moreover, they had millions of jewelry randomly displayed here, but it was difficult to sell one in a day. Okay, sir, please follow me. Following the waiter's footsteps, Wang Yu came to a display counter. In the middle of it was a hollow platinum bracelet with a lot of diamonds inlaid on it. Of course, the price of 99999 made Wang Yu think that this girl was really good at selling things. The light in the counter shone on it, reflecting a dazzling light. Sir, this bracelet is the work of the famous Italian designer Master Callery. This piece weighs 120 grams and is made of high-purity platinum. It is inlaid with 12 diamonds of more than 1 carat. Each diamond has been carefully selected and cut to ensure that its fire and light are in the best state. And the diamonds are arranged on the bracelet according to a certain pattern, forming a pattern that gives people a noble and elegant feeling. Whether it is worn in formal occasions or daily, it can add infinite charm and brilliance. Wang Yu was dazzled by the diamonds on this bracelet. It looks really gorgeous, but he feels that his first blood girl is a girl with connotation and definitely doesn't like such jewelry. This is not good, too ostentatious. Is there any simpler jewelry that can improve the wearer's taste and connotation? Yes, sir, there is a bracelet that meets your requirements, but the price is slightly beyond your budget. It's okay, let's take a look first. Slightly exceeding, when you felt that he still had the ability. When he came to another counter, before listening to the introduction, Wang Yu was attracted by a jade bracelet in the counter next to him. Sir, this is the one you want to see. Seeing Wang Yu walking towards the counter next to him, the intern girl reminded him softly. Wang Yu waved his hand, ignoring the 7-6 numbers under the bracelet, and said, "This bracelet, let me introduce it." The girl came over. Although she had no confidence that Wang Yu could afford it, she could not refuse the customer's request, so she started a professional introduction. "This is a simple and restrained jade bracelet. Its beauty lies in its delicate texture and exquisite craftsmanship. It is carved from a whole piece of ice-type floating flower jade. The whole body presents a light green color, with a soft color and evenly distributed natural patterns inside." Listening to the introduction, Wang Yu liked it more and more, and could not help but nod, and a little desire to buy it rose in his heart. At this time, a familiar voice sounded next to him, and Wang Yu turned his head to see. "Fuck. Isn't this my mother-in-law Li Yuzhen? The man next to her is actually my wife's cousin Liu Baoqian, who is also Li Yuzhen's cousin." Although they were wearing masks, Wang Yu still recognized them at a glance. "Looking at my mother-in-law holding Liu Baoqian's arm more than 10 meters away from me." The two people looked so intimate that people who didn't know them would think they were an elderly couple. The picture in front of him contained too much information, and Wang Yu couldn't react for a while. Chapter 18. Like daughter, like mother. Sir, what's wrong with you?" Wang Yu came back to his senses when he saw the little hand shaking in front of him. "This is it, wrap it up and I'll take it." The melon in front of him made Wang Yu no longer want to worry about the price of 7 sixes. Although it was expensive, he was willing to buy it for the first blood girl. Ignoring the intern girl's deliberate flattery, Wang Yu paid the bill and secretly followed Li Yuzhen and Liu Baoqian. When passing by the clothing area, he also bought a sun hat and put it on his head. The key point is that the hat is off-white. The two of them walked around for a while. Li Yuzhen bought a few clothes and bought a watch for Liu Baoqian. Wang Yu was far away and didn't know how much it cost, but looking at the Patek Philippe sign on it, he sighed that his mother-in-law really spent a lot of money. When he arrived at the parking lot, Wang Yu didn't dare to drive his own car for fear of being discovered. There was no time to call a taxi, so he used his mobile phone to swipe an electric bike and followed quietly behind. Wang Yu was afraid that he could not keep up with the electric bike at first, but now it was 7 o'clock in the evening, the rush hour for getting off work. The Audi A8 in front could only move forward at a snail's pace. After following for a while, Wang Yu found something wrong. Isn't this the way back to his community? He remembered that Liu Baoqian's home was in a villa area, and the Chen family didn't have any property in this community. Looking at the license plate number of the A8 in front, he didn't follow the wrong one, so he didn't hesitate at the moment and followed it first. Watching the black A8 swipe the card directly to enter the underground parking lot of the community, Wang Yu couldn't help but complain, "Is this community poisonous? How could it be so coincidental that the two of them actually have a house here?" After throwing the electric bike on the side of the road, Wang Yu didn't have time to go to the place to return the car, otherwise when they took the elevator directly upstairs from the underground parking lot, it would be difficult for him to find them again with so many houses. After entering the community, Wang Yu went down the nearest staircase to the underground parking lot. He looked up and didn't see the A8. He ran to the intersection in front of him. As soon as he ran over, he saw two figures disappearing at a corner. The A8 was parked nearby. After seeing the target, Wang Yu was not so anxious. He walked over quietly and stood by the wall at the corner. He didn't go directly over. He didn't appear until he heard the elevator door open and the footsteps of two people entering the elevator. Wang Yu stood in front of the elevator and waited. He saw that the elevator stopped at the 3rd floor and didn't move. Then Wang Yu ran quickly from the stairs to the 3rd floor. He ran up in a few seconds and quietly pushed open the staircase door. He saw that the door of 302 was about to close. Wang Yu also saw Li Yuzhen's familiar shoes through the crack of the door. He knew where they were going, but he was stumped about how to continue eating melons. It didn't work if he pretended to be a courier or a takeaway deliverman. As long as he met them, they would definitely recognize him. Besides, it was useless for him to be here. Once the door was closed, there was a snow-white wall. Unless he could see through things, he couldn't see a hair. Wang Yu followed the stairs to the outside of the community and quickly locked the location of 302. It was about less than 10 meters high, but Wang Yu had no choice at the moment. He stared at it, thinking whether to call the old man Chen Chushin, but even if he called, the old man would not believe him, so forget it and think of another way. Looking at the protruding steps from the 1st floor to the 3rd floor where the air conditioner was placed, a flash of inspiration flashed through Wang Yu's mind. He was very familiar with this step. He had seen it online more than once, and netizens always left comments below, so he was very impressed. Not only can the air conditioner be placed on the steps, but people can also stand on them. Both men and women have stood on them. They are quite sturdy, and the photos on the internet are proof of that. He didn't hesitate at the moment and smoothly came to the air conditioner steps on the second floor through the window on the first floor. The air conditioner fixed on top was very solid. Wang Yu shook it and it was very stable. He looked up at the stairs on the third floor that he could reach with his hand, rubbed his hands, and was ready to climb up. Wang Yu easily came to the third floor and slowly moved along the air conditioner stairs to the bedroom window of 302. Bending down and squatting on the air conditioner, Wang Yu was a little worried about being discovered, but there was nothing he could do at the moment. He could only pray that he would not be discovered by the people in the community or the patrolling security guards. As time passed, Wang Yu had already got what he wanted. The two people in the room didn't know that their every move had been discovered by others. Suddenly, Wang Yu thought about the abilities he had acquired. Although he didn't know how effective the men's self-defense technique was, the gynecological master and the heart sutra of bone setting had been tested in practice. At this time, this so-called supernatural power of giving birth, I don't know if it's just what it seems. It's a good time now, and I don't know if his supernatural power can help this couple in their 50s to have a happy old tree. Wang Yu did it as soon as he thought of it. He immediately used his magical power to deliver a child. A faint red light enveloped Li Yuzhen's abdomen, and then disappeared. Wang Yu didn't know if it worked or not. Anyway, he had already taken a video, and now it was time to leave. He put away his phone and prepared to leave. "Uncle, what are you doing?" Wang Yu was so scared that he almost fell down when he heard the voice, and looked down. Fuck. 7 or 8 children lined up and looked up at him. "I know, I saw the uncle from the neighbor's house standing on the air conditioner in my house. My father was at the window and wanted to beat him." One of the little girls said in a baby voice. "That uncle is very dangerous." Another little boy heard the words and immediately shouted nervously. "Yes, yes. Uncle, I'm going to be beaten by someone else's father." "Whose home is this? Can you tell his father not to beat me and let me teach us how to climb the wall?" "Climbing the wall, it looks very high, I don't want to learn." Listening to the discussion below, Wang Yu wanted to explain, but how to explain, can he explain it well? "Uncle, come down quickly, otherwise you will be beaten." "Yes, uncle, it's easy to be beaten to death by someone else's father if you stand by the air conditioner, come down quickly." The children came to the final conclusion, let the uncle come down quickly and protect him from being beaten. Wang Yu nodded with an embarrassed smile, and then climbed down quickly. "Uncle is so awesome, can you teach me to climb the wall?" As soon as he came to the ground, he was surrounded by several children. "Climbing the wall is dangerous. You can learn it when you grow up. Uncle has something to do, so I'm leaving first." "Oh, uncle, take care." "Goodbye, uncle. Will you come tomorrow?" Wang Yu fled in panic under the gaze of several children. But what he didn't know was that tomorrow there would be rumors in the community that the lover had an affair and ran away along the air conditioner. Chapter 19. You can threaten me by leaving the house empty-handed. Wang Yu ran out of the community, returned the electric bike he had left on the roadside, and then bought some cooked food and a few cans of beer, and returned to his home. On the way, the elevator passed by downstairs. Wang Yu wanted to go over, but thinking about his married status, he gave up helplessly. "Tomorrow, I will come as soon as I get divorced tomorrow." Wang Yu secretly made up his mind with the bracelet he just bought in his hand. While drinking beer, Wang Yu swiped his phone and opened the video he had just taken. He thought about taking a few pictures first. The rented house had a color printer that could print photos, so he could print them out. How come it's not even 3 minutes yet? I remember squatting on the air conditioner for a long time. Didn't I take the whole video? Wang Yu was a little puzzled when he saw the length of the video. He quickly clicked the play button and watched it from the beginning to the end. It was indeed 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Seeing this time, Wang Yu fell into deep thought. Then he cut a few representative scenes, printed them out and put them in a file bag, and prepared to take a shower and go to bed. I still have things to do tomorrow, so it is important to maintain a good mental state. Lying in bed, Wang Yu always felt that he had forgotten something important, but he couldn't think of it for a while, and he tossed and turned and couldn't sleep. Oh my god! I forgot to check my merit points. At the beginning, I was rushing to earn merit points to save the child, but I forgot about this matter with so many things today. Opening the system panel, skipping the previous information, Wang Yu directly saw that his merit points had risen to 37 points. Rescuing the unconscious Zhu Yan gave a minimum of 1 point, and saving the child actually gave a full 25 points. However, there was no lottery this time, and Wang Yu was a little disappointed. The system's reward was very powerful, and he was still thinking whether he could draw a new ability today. Although he was a little disappointed, Wang Yu was still very happy to see the rising merit value. When he officially joined the company, he would face a large number of patients every day in the future, and the merit value would rise rapidly. Will he be able to ascend to the fairyland by then? Thinking about such a beautiful thing, Wang Yu fell asleep quickly. Wang Yu slept very well that night. But his wife Chen Yuting slept very badly. Her husband was going to divorce her tomorrow. He contacted his lover several times in the past 2 days, but every time he had something to do and had no time to accompany her. She felt empty in her heart and felt like she was abandoned. Song Yuran, who left the hospital, was not sad about Wang Yu's departure without saying goodbye. The news of his divorce was like the dawn that broke the darkness, making her heart, which had been desperate for many years, full of vitality again. At this moment, she was lying on the bed, holding a pillow in her arms, with a smile on her face, sleeping sweetly and peacefully. The ones who slept the best that night were indeed Li Yuzhen and Liu Baoqiang. They were so sweet and loving when they hugged each other. Early the next morning, Wang Yu came to his former home. He called his wife but no one answered, so he had to come again. After knocking on the door a few times, he found that it was Li Yuzhen who came to open the door. Wang Yu was a little stunned at this moment, but the divorce was more important. He forced himself not to think about the scene last night. Come in, your father wants to talk to you about something. Okay, as long as we can get a divorce, we can talk about anything. Following Li Yuzhen to the living room, Wang Yu was still a little angry when he saw the people from the Chen family sitting in the house he bought. Wang Yu, if you want a divorce, you can sign this. Chen Chuxing pushed a document over. Wang Yu took it and saw that it was a divorce agreement. Looking at the conditions above, it can't be said to be harsh, it's simply unreasonable. If it were the old me, I would have torn it up and started to get angry, but the shocking melon I prepared, you will cry when you get divorced. Wang Yu suppressed his anger and was ready for revenge. Wait, I will never let you have an easy time. Looking at the name his wife had signed, he took the pen and signed his own name directly. No. Chen Yuting ran over to stop him, but Wang Yu was too fast and signed it directly. Take the copy on the top and throw the other 2 on the table. Write a receipt and I will give you 1 million right away. Chen Chuxing looked at Wang Yu's calm performance and felt a little incredible. You see clearly. Your Chen family is really accountable. Not only did you get rid of me, but you also didn't let go of my compensation yesterday. I've learned a lot. You guys are also the ones who got me fired. No, husband, listen to my explanation. What happened just now doesn't count. We won't divorce and live a good life, okay? Chen Yuting has recalled many experiences with Wang Yu in the past 2 days. The more she thinks about it, the better she feels about Wang Yu. She can't bear to let him go. She really can't bear to let him go. Wang Yu saw through his wife's character. She wanted everything. His care and consideration over the years had made her used to it. She didn't really love him. After the divorce, no one could care for her and love her as much as he did. My wife had never liked him. She wanted to be held in the palm of her hand and give her everything without reservation. Par. Chen Chuxing slapped Chen Yuting. Isn't it embarrassing enough? Get a divorce. Faced with such a daughter, if she wasn't his own, Chen Chuxing really wanted to strangle her. Wang Yu's determination and his father's anger made Chen Yuting obedient. Taking the materials needed for divorce, the 2 drove to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Wang Yu lined up and looked at the couple in front of him who were going through the procedures. He felt indescribable pain in his heart. When he got married, he never thought that he would have this day. The world is unpredictable and people's hearts are hard to predict. Soon it was Wang Yu and Chen Yuting's turn. After handing over the divorce agreement and other materials, the clerk did not ask any more questions. He had seen many such cases. He just glanced at Wang Yu, surprised that this man left the house empty-handed, and then began to handle the matter. Are you sure you want a divorce? Yes. Wang Yu said firmly. Chen Yuting was silent at this moment. What about the woman? Chen Yuting seemed to have not heard the words of the clerk, and she shed tears silently as she watched Wang Yu. If we had known this would happen, we would have kept each other's dignity, and you didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Looking at the pitiful Chen Yuting, Wang Yu couldn't bear it for a moment and spoke to comfort her. I am willing. No matter how unwilling she was, Chen Yuting still agreed to the divorce. She could not blame others for the bitter fruit she had sown. After hearing this, the case handler pressed the steel stamp. At this moment, Wang Yu felt unprecedented relaxation. Leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, Chen Yuting followed Wang Yu silently, and the two came to the parking lot. When Wang Yu was about to get in the car and leave, Chen Yuting grabbed the corner of his clothes. Thank you. Thank me for what? Thank me for leaving the house, thank me for giving you the compensation, thank me for being banned from the entire industry and having to go back to my hometown to farm. Wang Yu's words were like needles piercing Chen Yuting's heart. My father wanted the compensation, and I didn't cause you to be fired. I'm sorry, I really didn't know things would come to this. Chen Yuting was so embarrassed by what Wang Yu said that she could only defend herself. Okay, what's the point of saying more about what has happened? Go back and pack up your things, and would better never see each other again. Hubby. Thank you for your love for me, thank you for your care and companionship for so many years, I'm sorry. After saying that, Chen Yuting turned around and left in tears. Chapter 20 Men should live wisely. When Wang Yu came to this house again, although only an hour had passed, he felt that things had changed. The love nest that he had saved up for many years no longer belonged to him. He was a little sad, but he felt that it was not worth it. Divorced. Looking at Wang Yu who came in, Chen Chuxing rarely had a dark face. Divorced, Uncle Chen, from now on I have nothing to do with your Chen family, and we owe each other nothing. I'll go up and take my things and leave. Chen Chuxing had always looked down on the young man in front of him, but he always recognized Wang Yu's character and personality. Especially this time, after his wife betrayed him, he paid such a great price to break up decisively, which made Chen Chuxing admire him very much. Here is for you. He handed Wang Yu a bank card. Taking the card, Wang Yu looked at Chen Chuxing, wondering what kind of trick this was. The agreement just now only allows you to refuse the divorce, but it's useless to say that now. My daughter is sorry for you, but my Chen family can't owe you. I can't repay the favor. Here is 5 million, which is also your contribution to the Chen family for so many years. Take it. Chen Chuxing patted Wang Yu's shoulder, turned around and sat on the sofa with a sigh. Wang Yu held the card and understood Chen Chuxing's thoughts. Chen Yuting can be embarrassed, but he, Chen Chuxing, still has face, although he has always looked down on Wang Yu. I also thought that the two would divorce, so I threatened Wang Yu with the divorce agreement, which was also to maintain my daughter's face. But if they really divorced, Chen Chuxing would not do such a shameful thing for such a small amount of money. Putting the money in his pocket, Wang Yu didn't say anything. After all, this was what he deserved. He had a new understanding of this father-in-law who always found fault with him. At least he still understood the right and wrong and knew how to save face. Go upstairs to pack your things, pack up early and leave early. Chen Yuting did not come back, and no one knew where she went. Only Wang Yu and Chen Chuxing were at home. When Wang Yu came, the two children were still asleep, and now they were probably taken out by Chen Yuting. After cleaning up, Wang Yu looked at Chen Chuxing sitting on the sofa, and felt that this arrogant old man was really pitiful. Suddenly, he felt that he was a fellow wanderer, but at this moment, he was relieved. He must have been deceived by Li Yuzhen for decades. Thinking of this, Wang Yu felt that he should help him, otherwise he would probably not know what his wife did behind his back until he died. Uncle Chen, I'm leaving. Here are the keys on the table. Well, let's go. Wang Yu tried several times, but he couldn't speak. He took out the photos he printed and the USB flash drive he copied the videos to, and slapped them in Chen Chuxing's hand. Uncle Chen, the most important thing for a man is to live clearly. I didn't back up these things and gave them to you. Take good care of them. After saying that, he left quickly. Chen Chuxing was a little scared when he saw the photos and USB flash drive in his hand. Could it be that this guy had found evidence of his daughter's infidelity? He was somewhat glad that he didn't do it too far, otherwise Wang Yu would definitely not give him these things. How could he put his old face if this thing was publicized? Although he was sure that it was evidence of his daughter's infidelity, it was better to take a look, in case he was wrong. Li Yuzhen, you are a ruthless person. As soon as Chen Chuxing saw one, he spit out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Dad, what's wrong with you? Chen Yuting returned home only after seeing Wang Yu leave. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, she didn't know how to face Wang Yu, so she kept waiting downstairs. When she just came back, she saw her father collapsed on the sofa, his face as pale as paper, and blood on his chest and coffee table. She quickly called 120, and then went forward to support Chen Chuxing. I accidentally saw the scattered photos on the ground. When I saw the picture of my mother and my cousin together, I felt that my eyes went dark and I fainted. Fortunately, Chen Yuting called before she fell into a coma, otherwise Chen Chuxing might have been really angry to death today. The ambulance came quickly. Although they didn't get through to Chen Yuting, they still went into their house because the door was not closed. Looking at the unconscious father and daughter in front of them, they did not choose to send them directly to their hospital, but immediately started emergency treatment. After all, Chen Yuting was young. Although she was greatly stimulated, she woke up quickly. After waking up, she ignored the doctor's advice and quickly picked up the photos from the ground, tore them into pieces and threw them into the toilet. Chen Chuxing was furious and was stabilized after temporary rescue, but he didn't wake up yet and was carried on a stretcher to the hospital. Chen Yuting sat in the ambulance, looking at her father, and didn't dare to call her mother. She never thought that her family would be broken up in just a few days. Wang Yu didn't know what happened in the Chen family, and he didn't want to know. After doing what he should do, he was worthy of Chen Chuxing, otherwise he would have worn the green hat until he was buried. Passing by a barber shop, Wang Yu thought that he had started a new life. Then let's start from the beginning. Cut my hair short. Looking at his hair full of literary and artistic atmosphere, Wang Yu missed his former buzz cut. The hairdresser's skills are very good. In less than half an hour, Wang Yu changed from an elegant white-collar worker to a handsome and sunny young man. With his fair skin and short hair, he looks like a college graduate. The whole person not only looks a lot younger, but also full of vitality. Looking at himself in the mirror, Wang Yu was very satisfied. He felt that this was what a man should look like. After paying, Wang Yu prepared to go home. As soon as he walked out of the door, he felt that he had bumped into someone. Then he felt a surge of power. A scream brought Wang Yu back to his senses. At this moment, a short piece of information appeared in my mind. Mid-stage breast cancer, treatment methods. Fuck. This works too. Why don't you get out of the way? Although she bumped into him because she was walking fast, Sun Qian was very ashamed and angry because this guy was staring at her blankly. Sorry, I didn't mean it. Wang Yu apologized quickly. The woman in front of her looked to be in her 30s. Although she looked very beautiful, the crow's feet at the corners of her eyes inevitably exposed her age. HMPH, tilde. Although the man in front of her was handsome and sunny, and he looked like the type she liked, Sun Qian didn't look good at him at the moment. She walked around Wang Yu and walked into the barber shop. Although Wang Yu wanted to tell her she was sick, and it was cancer. But this embarrassing scene made him not know how to say it. He followed into the barber shop at the moment. After all, he could cure the disease himself and earn merit points. Sister, I'm sorry. Wang Yu's opening remarks almost pissed off Sun Qian. Sister, am I that old? If you don't know how to talk, just shut up. Damn, so irritable. Sister, I really didn't mean it just now. Well, it wasn't intentional, it was deliberate. No, listen to my explanation. I'm a doctor. I just felt that you had a tumor, so I felt it for a while. When you felt that her explanation was perfect, which not only showed her identity, but also explained her behavior just now. Young man, your routine is too old. I have something to do today and I don't have time to chat with you. You'd better get out of here. Sun Qian has never lacked all kinds of suitors. She has seen so many strange ways of chatting up. Wang Yu's way is nothing new to her. I work at Maria Hospital. This is my phone number. If you don't believe me, you can find a place to check it yourself. After that, Wang Yu handed over a note with his phone number and name on it. Sun Qian took it and put it in her bag, not wanting to talk to Wang Yu anymore. Seeing that the other party accepted the note, Wang Yu turned around and left. Chapter 21 Sun Qian. After returning home, Wang Yu packed his things, then went to the bathroom and washed himself inside and out. The beard on his face was shaved clean, and he put on a handsome suit, and the whole person looked very energetic. Take the bracelet worth 7 sixes and rushed downstairs impatiently. Soon Wang Yu came to the door of the first blood girl, nervous heart, trembling hands, as if he had returned to the youthful college days. Dong dong dong. Wang Yu knocked on the door a few times with courage. Then he took a few steps back and stood straight, like a soldier being inspected. However, after waiting for 2 minutes, there was no movement in the room. Didn't he hear it? Wang Yu stepped forward and knocked a few more times, but there was still no response from inside. It's past 12 o'clock. Did he go to work and not be at home? Then come back in the evening. Although Wang Yu felt a little disappointed when he thought of this, he didn't care much. After all, their house was here and he could still run away. When he returned to their house again, Wang Yu felt very hot. Looking at the suit on his body, he suddenly felt that he was a fool. It was more than 30 degrees outside, and it was hot to wear a shirt. He was wearing such a thick suit. Sure enough, women always make men lose their composure. Take off the suit, look at the white shirt soaked in sweat, and laugh at his behavior. Forget it, let's go to dinner first, and go in the evening. Wang Yu changed into cooler clothes and prepared to go out for dinner. At this time, Sun Qian was holding the examination report in the hospital. Looking at the results on it, her heart was chilled. That guy didn't just flirt with her, but he really found out that he had a tumor. Originally, Sun Qian didn't care about what Wang Yu said, but recently she also felt that her left side was a little uncomfortable, so she thought it would be good to go for a checkup. Without getting her hair done, she went to a nearby hospital to take an X-ray. As it was almost time to get off work, the doctor who took the X-ray was in a hurry to eat, so he was very fast. Sun Qian got the examination report in just 20 minutes. Doctor, how should I treat this? Looking at the doctor in front of her, holding her X-ray without saying anything, Sun Qian felt uneasy. It's okay. Although it's malignant, it's fortunately in the middle stage. It was discovered in time and can be cured. The doctor's conclusion made Sun Qian feel relieved. Stay in the hospital first, observe for a few days, do a few more tests, and then start the resection surgery. Resection? Sun Qian was shocked. Yes, if you don't remove the cancer cells, they will spread, and your life will be in danger. The doctor's words made her heart sink to the bottom. How can she go out in the future? Thinking of this, she wanted to die. Yes, that young man, the two of them were able to find out the problem of her body through a short contact. There must be a way to cure it. Doctor, I'll go home and discuss it first. After saying that, Sun Qian left quickly. After getting in the car, she emptied all the things in her bag and finally found the note handed over by Wang Yu. Sun Qian had received too many notes, but she never took them seriously. But at this moment, the note in her hand was like a life-saving straw. According to the number on it, she dialed Wang Yu's number. Wang Yu, who was about to go to dinner, saw a strange number calling and picked up the phone without thinking much. Hello, Dr. Wang, I'm Sun Qian. We met at the barber shop today and you gave me your number. Oh, Miss Sun, you have checked it and believe what I said. Believe it, believe it. I don't know if it's convenient for Dr. Wang now. I want to treat you to a meal. Wang Yu was going to have a meal anyway, and he didn't refuse when someone invited him. After all, he really helped her, so it was right to eat her a meal. Okay, you tell me a place, I'll go there later. Qinjie restaurant, that's my family's property. The two quickly made an appointment, and Wang Yu drove there. Soon Wang Yu arrived at Qinjie restaurant and saw Sun Qian standing at the gate in high heels, looking around without paying attention to the scorching sun above her head. Ms. Sunday. Wang Yu stepped forward and greeted her. Dr. Wang, you're here, please come in. Sun Qian said, and took Wang Yu's arm and led him into the restaurant. Hey. Let me go. You're here, please, please. Feeling Wang Yu's struggle, Sun Qian also felt that she had gone too far. They had only met twice, and her behavior was indeed easy to be misunderstood. The two came to a private room, and as soon as they sat down, Sun Qian sat next to Wang Yu with a report. Tell my chef to serve the dishes, she said softly. Before she finished speaking, Sun Qian waved to the waiters to leave the room and closed the door. After all the waiters left, Sun Qian took a deep breath, as if she had made up her mind, and handed the report in her hand to Wang Yu, and asked softly, Dr. Wang, please help me look at this film, Can I still save it? Sun Qian's voice trembled slightly, revealing her inner fear and anxiety. Although she was a woman, she couldn't help feeling panic and helpless when facing her physical condition. Especially after hearing the doctor's words, although Sun Qian was very scared and even a little panicked, there was still a trace of doubt in her heart. So, she decided to seek advice from Wang Yu, hoping to get a more accurate and reliable diagnosis. After calling Wang Yu, she calmed down. She immediately used her connections and contacts to consult more than a dozen experts and professors in this field, and the results were all that needed to be removed. At this time, Sun Qian was really panicked. Now Wang Yu was her only hope. If Wang Yu's answer was also removal, she would really be desperate. Don't worry, I can cure it without surgery. Wang Yu pretended to look at the film and said confidently. Sun Qian breathed a sigh of relief when she heard this. Although she had not received treatment yet, she got a positive answer from Wang Yu, and her panic was much better. Then I'll leave it to Dr. Wang. At this moment, Sun Qian would not be so stupid as to ask. Really? You didn't lie to me, did you? These words lack emotional intelligence. If Wang Yu said he could cure it, she would believe it. If he couldn't cure it, then he would betray her trust. What price she would have to pay at that time would depend on her mood. You go to Maria Hospital tomorrow. When you arrive, call me directly and start the treatment. Can't it start today? Sun Qian looked at Wang Yu eagerly. It was really hard for her to act cute and pitiful at the age of 42. Wang Yu thought about it. It was not difficult to treat Sun Qian's disease. It was estimated that it would be cured in half an hour. But his ability should not be exposed. Otherwise, if it was spread out, there were so many cancers in the world that he could not see them all even if he worked 16 hours a day and worked all year round. Dr. Wang, don't worry, I will keep it a secret. As if she saw Wang Yu's thoughts, Sun Qian immediately promised. Sometimes women's intuition is really accurate. Wang Yu, who was about to make a decision, heard this. Hearing this, he hesitated a little. Wang Yu was not worried that she would go out and talk nonsense. After all, there were only the two of them here, and if he didn't admit it, no one could do anything to him. Chapter 22. This misunderstanding is a bit big. Dr. Wang, please have pity on me. I'm not married yet, and you don't want to see me unable to get married in the future. Seeing the other party hesitate, Sun Qian continued to act pitiful. Sun Qian is actually a non-marriageist, otherwise she wouldn't be 42 years old and still unmarried. Wang Yu looked at the other party in surprise. It was incredible that she was still unmarried at this age, but after all, they just met, and he was also trying to earn merit points, so there was no need to delve into it. Okay, after dinner, I'll find a quiet place for you to treat you. Hearing Wang Yu's agreement, Sun Qian immediately became happy. Although she had never thought about getting married, she still cherished her body. She could go to their hospital for treatment tomorrow, which wouldn't delay anything, but she didn't want to wait a minute. What if something unexpected happened? What if I can't find anyone in the hospital tomorrow? What if Wang Yu was hit by a car during this period? This is cancer, and everything that might happen must be prevented. If Wang Yu knew Sun Qian's thoughts, he would probably strangle her to death. After chatting about these, the two of them didn't know what to say. The waiter also brought a sumptuous banquet at this time. Looking at the dishes in front of him, Wang Yu was surprised at Sun Qian's financial resources, but he didn't ask much, and immediately started eating. Sun Qian had something on her mind, and she couldn't eat after a few bites. Her beautiful eyes looked at Wang Yu eagerly. Okay, let's go, find a place to start treatment. Being looked at by Sun Qian like this, Wang Yu felt very uncomfortable eating. Although the food was very good, he didn't want to eat like this anymore. Okay, what kind of environment does Dr. Wang need? I will arrange it immediately. Sun Qian was a little impatient at this moment. After all, the tumor grew on her body. Just be quiet. Don't you need any equipment? No, let me treat you, you have to believe me. Wang Yu had to confess his love in the evening, so he wanted to cure Sun Qian quickly. Then let's go to the third floor. There is a lounge there. The environment inside is pretty good. Although she couldn't figure out how Wang Yu was going to treat the patient, seeing how confident he was, Sun Qian couldn't say anything. After all, she needed help. The two came to the third floor. There was a separate room at the end of the corridor. This room belonged to Sun Qian's third brother. Sometimes he and his friends drank too much and took a rest here. It just happened to be used today. After opening the door, Wang Yu took a look. Although it was called a lounge, it was decorated very well and had a large space. There were living rooms, bedrooms, and bathrooms. Wang Yu saw another corner of the life of the rich. Let me make it clear first. I don't have a medical qualification certificate. The treatment method is also inherited from my ancestors, and the fee is also very high. Wang Yu looked at the treatment methods listed on the panel and thought it was better to tell him in advance. It's okay. As long as it can be cured, Dr. Wang can charge any price. Sun Qian didn't hesitate. Okay, I'll check you first. Seeing the other party's cooperation, Wang Yu didn't worry about anything. He turned his head and motioned the other party to start. How can I cooperate with you? Sun Qian asked with a red face. The location of the tumor is so special. Does it need to be checked properly? Sorry for the offense. Just lie down. I'll do the rest myself. Wang Yu coughed lightly and said awkwardly. Okay, I'll listen to Dr. Wang. Sun Qian closed her eyes and tightly grasped the sheets on both sides with her hands. She was very nervous. Ms. Sun, doctors only have patients in their eyes, not men or women. Wang Yu rolled up his sleeves and comforted her. Took a deep breath, suppressed distracting thoughts, and started the treatment. The system provides several methods. Why did Wang Yu choose massage? In fact, it was just to save time. Alas. Forget it. Although I am not a doctor, I am also in the mindset of curing diseases and saving lives. I did not hesitate to start the treatment according to the treatment methods on the system. The treatment process is extremely complicated. When you overcame hundreds of tender, round, big, elastic. The crisis of etc. finally eliminated the tumor in Sun Qian's body. Although the principle is unknown, the introduction of the system has been questioned, and it is a cheat. It's okay, Ms. Sunday. Dr. Wang said to Sun Qian with a smile after more than 10 minutes. Thank you, Dr. Wang. Sun Qian responded gratefully. Just then, a heroic voice suddenly sounded outside the door. Qian, I heard you came to see me. Then, the door was pushed open, and a figure appeared at the door. Fuck. What are you doing? Qian's third brother widened his eyes, looking at the scene in the room with astonishment, even forgetting to take back his hand to push the door, and the whole person stood there like a sculpture. Third brother, why did you come in without knocking? Qian saw this, and blamed him with anger and amusement. She muttered to herself that this third brother is always so rash and doesn't know etiquette at all. However, at this moment, the third brother had no intention of paying attention to his sister's accusations. Thinking of this, the third brother smiled with relief. For so many years, he has been worried about his sister's lifelong event. Now seeing this scene, a big stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. If this happened 20 years ago, he would definitely go up and beat Wang Yu first. But 20 years have passed, and her whole family has tried all kinds of ways for her marriage, but it is still useless. The sister is 42 years old, and the eldest brother's daughter has given birth to 2 children, but she still doesn't get married. The 3 brothers are worried. At this moment, how could he scare and threaten the man in front of him? Besides, the boy in front of him looks very energetic and looks very strong. He is also calm and steady when facing him. Wang Yu is in a state of confusion at this time, so he looks very steady. It's not bad to be his brother-in-law. Qian, it's the third brother's fault. You continue, I'll go down first. The third brother said, and immediately closed the door and left. Hey, big brother, do you know that Qian is wanted by someone? Really? In my hotel, I saw it with my own eyes. What do you mean you want to come over? Come quickly. Hey. Second brother, Qian has found a boyfriend, and he is in my hotel. Come quickly. You are in a meeting, so you have to push it and come quickly. Hey, Jingrui, go pick up your grandparents quickly. Your aunt is finally getting married. What? When did your third uncle lie to anyone? The other party has come to my hotel. Hurry up and let them come to discuss the marriage. Hey, who are you? Lao Jiao, my sister is getting married. I was so excited that I dialed the wrong number. Listen to me. The voice coming from the corridor made the 2 people in the room completely confused. Sun Qian didn't care that Wang Yu was right next to her, and ran out barefoot. Sundashin, I will strangle you to death. Shut your mouth. Qianqian, let go, you are so old, what is there to be embarrassed about? It's not like that, call me and say you saw it wrong, don't let them come over. You think I'm blind, I can see this wrong, Qianqian, you are 42 years old, get married this month, and I can hold my nephew next year. Listening to the outside talk, Wang Yu felt that a huge trouble was coming, and immediately found a pen and paper in the room, quickly wrote down the prescription and prepared to run away. Chapter 23 Really Drinkable. Ms. Sun, this is for you, it's all written on it, you just take it according to it, I have something to do so I'll leave first. Handed the prescription to Sun Qian, who was cleaning up her third brother. Dr. Wang, I'm sorry, my third brother is just talking nonsense, don't mind it. Sun Qian took the prescription and said awkwardly. It's okay, just explain it clearly, you can go to the hospital to find me if you have any questions. After saying that, Wang Yu was ready to run away. This place was too dangerous. Sundashing had notified his whole family in no time. When everyone arrived, it was difficult for him to leave. Brother-in-law, don't. Sundashing broke free and hugged Wang Yu's shoulders. Young man, don't be embarrassed. I agree with your sister on behalf of the whole family. What's the matter between me and your sister? I just met her today. Although I'm divorced, I'm only in my early 30s this year. Your sister is already 42 years old, 2 digits older than me. Which eye of yours is interested in me? But it was just a thought in my mind. After all, I had to consider Sun Qian's face. After all, I just played with her big white rabbit for a long time. Mr. Sun, this is a misunderstanding. Let me explain. Wang Yu broke free and found that his male self-defense skills could not break free. Could it be that he could only defend against women? Third brother, it's really a misunderstanding. Mr. Wang is a doctor. He just treated me. My brother-in-law is a doctor, a good profession, the most respected. Damn, this guy only listens halfway, right? Let's go, let's have a few drinks today. How could Sundashing not hear clearly what the two people said, but his sister was shirtless in the scene just now? No matter what the reason is, this kid should always be responsible for his sister. At the moment, relying on his own nonsense, he kept the person first, and waited for others to come to control Wang Yu. No matter whether it was coercion, inducement, or kneeling down to kowtow, for the sake of his sister's lifelong event, he didn't want this face today. Half pulled and half dragged by Sundashing to a luxurious private room, Wang Yu tried to explain all the way, but it was useless. Sundashing, who had made up his mind, didn't care what he said at all. This was the first time he had seen his sister so close to a man in so many years. He had only one idea in his mind: you will be the brother-in-law. Little sister, go tell the outside that we will close the business in the afternoon, let Lao Jiao in the kitchen use all his unique skills, I want to treat my brother-in-law well. How could Sun Qian not know what the third brother was thinking, and now she was embarrassed and ashamed. Hearing his words, she quickly left the private room. Brother-in-law, my sister is not here now. Tell me how you hooked up. Oh, at the barber shop this morning. Oh. What hooked up? I just met Ms. Sun today. You just met today. Well, third brother, your sister and I are really not familiar with each other. Don't worry, third brother understands you. Isn't fast-paced love popular now? Young people shouldn't have so much pressure. No, you really misunderstood. Ms. Sun has a tumor. I just treated her. Have the means of fooling women improved so fast now? Boy, you can fool my sister, but you can fool me. Thinking of this, Sundashing looked at Wang Yu with a serious face, patted his shoulder and said, Brother-in-law, a man should be brave and responsible. I didn't, it was just a necessary treatment method. Stop talking, I understand. No, listen to me. What are you talking about? Are you married? I was married, but divorced. Then what else can I say? Don't worry, third brother won't dislike you. I, Wang Yu, will be famous for the rest of my life. At this time, the waiter brought 2 bottles of Moutai and brought a few plates of side dishes. Sundashing took the bottle and poured 2 glasses of 2 liang cups directly. Brother-in-law, come and have one. After saying that, he finished a cup. Drink, what are you looking at? Wang Yu was a little stunned when he saw Sun Dishing drinking a glass of wine in 3 seconds. I really can't drink this. How do you know you can't drink it if you haven't tried it? Try it first. If you can't drink it, I won't persuade you. Wang Yu heard this and took a sip gently at his lips. Brother-in-law, you can't be like this. Sun Dishing took his empty cup and motioned Wang Yu to look at the full cup in his hand. Third brother, I'll have another cup with you, but I can't give you face this time. As he said that, he filled up another 2 taels of wine, then raised his head and slammed it, showing Wang Yu his unique skill of drinking a glass of wine in 3 seconds again. Brother-in-law, it's your turn. Sun Dishing put the empty cup on the table, bared his teeth and looked at Wang Yu with burning eyes. I can't not drink this. This guy relies on his good alcohol tolerance to bully me, right? I, Wang Yu, have never been afraid of anyone at the wine table since I was a child. With eyes closed and head raised, the unique skill of drinking a glass of wine in 3 seconds makes everyone feel the same. After drinking, Wang Yu pointed the empty cup at Sun Dishing, with a bit of provocation in his eyes. Not bad, good man, Brother San will fill it up for you. Wang Yu also let go now. Since he couldn't explain it, he didn't explain it. Since I can't leave, then I won't leave. Since you want to drink, then come on, who's afraid of who? Moutai costs thousands of yuan a bottle, and you don't have to pay for it yourself. It's a waste not to drink it. Brother San, what are you doing? Sun Qian walked into the room and looked at the wine bottle next to the 2 people. There was less than half of the wine left. She was a little surprised that the 2 people who were entangled just now were drinking now. My little sister is here, go and move another box of wine. Wang Yu reached out and grabbed a handful of peanuts from the plate, eating them one by one. Seeing Sun Qian coming in, he still smiled politely. Come on, Brother San, I'll toast you a glass. It's all this guy who's making trouble. Once he's knocked him down, he can leave. Okay, let's drink to my brother-in-law. Sun Dishing was very happy about Wang Yu's toast. The 2 clinked their glasses and raised their heads, and drank a glass of wine in 3 seconds at the same time. Go and move the wine, why are you standing there? Sun Dishing urged after drinking. Wang Yu took the bottle and started to pour the wine. After pouring all the wine, it was exactly 2 glasses. He put the empty bottle aside and then opened another bottle of wine. Sun Dishing now understood Wang Yu's thoughts. Young people are impulsive. He is arguing with him. But why don't you argue with anything else but this? I am the 3rd uncle, so today I will teach him a good lesson and let him know that there are always people better than you. Come on, brother-in-law. 3rd brother, please. In less than an hour, 3 bottles of the box of wine that Sun Qian moved were gone. Sun Dishing and Wang Yu's eyes became brighter as they drank. They looked at each other and felt like they were shooting themselves in the foot. Don't drink anymore. If you drink more, something bad will happen. Seeing the 2 people who refused to admit defeat, Sun Qian felt helpless. She knew her 3rd brother's alcohol tolerance very well. At first, she thought that Wang Yu would be defeated in a short time. But she never expected that the 2 of them would drink 5 bottles in a row. And it seemed that if she didn't persuade them, the remaining 3 bottles would not be enough for them. Chapter 24 3 brothers get ruthless and even cheat their own sister. Brother-in-law, let's take a break. Sun Dishing was unsure at this moment. Although he was not drunk yet, he had not yet felt the bottom of this kid, and he didn't know if he could bear it. Just borrowing Sun Qian's words, let himself take a break first. Okay, take a break. Wang Yu also had a hard time complaining. This Sun Dishing was too damn good at drinking. The 2 smiled at each other and put down their glasses. 3rd brother, I'm going to the bathroom. After saying that, Wang Yu stood up. Sun Dishing smiled and waved his hand. Coming to the bathroom cubicle, Wang Yu hugged the toilet and began to vomit until his stomach was empty and there was nothing to vomit. After rinsing his mouth and washing his face, Wang Yu felt that his condition was much better. Although he drank a lot, it took a process for the body to absorb it. The inventory in his stomach was emptied, and his mind was much clearer. Coming to the private room, Wang Yu saw Sun Dishing and Sun Qian talking to 2 men. When Wang Yu arrived, the 4 men looked up at him at the same time. The 3 men's eyes were very hot, which made him feel very strange for a while. Sun Qian smiled helplessly and said, Dr. Wang, I have explained it, and the misunderstanding has been resolved. I am really sorry. It's okay, just explain it clearly. I have no loss, it's okay. When Wang Yu went out, Qian's eldest brother and second brother came over one after another. Taking this opportunity, she took out her own examination report and told how she met Wang Yu and how she was treated. Of course, there are some things she will definitely not say, just explain the examination needs, and pass it over in a few words. After listening to the explanation, the three brothers also felt that the third brother made a mistake, but they did not blame him. After all, if they encountered such a thing, it would be inevitable that there would be misunderstandings. Dr. Wang, I'm Qian's eldest brother Sun Dezhao, and this is Qian's second brother Sun Dexing. You already know the third brother, so I won't introduce them again. On behalf of the three of us brothers, I want to thank Dr. Wang for saving Qian. Sun Dezhao stepped forward and held Wang Yu's hand tightly. I'm sorry, Dr. Wang, I made a mistake. Sun Dexing apologized with a red face, not knowing whether it was because of drinking or because he was really embarrassed. Brother, everything has been made clear. We have to thank Dr. Wang very much. We are all here today, so let's have a meal together. Sun Dexing also came to smooth things over, and several people sat at the table separately. Brother, we really don't want this brother-in-law anymore. Let's wait and see. The second brother has already asked someone to investigate. Brother, this is a rare opportunity. I think this guy is very good. We have to use some tricks to make Qian his wife. Shut up and wait for the second brother to send the news. Not everyone can marry a girl from my Sun family. Okay, brother, whatever you say is fine. I'll listen to you. But my parents will be here soon. You go and explain. I just asked Jingrui. My parents were taking a nap just now and didn't get the news. Come on, Dr. Wang. We three brothers toast you a glass for our first meeting. As Wang Yu said this, he saw the three brothers opposite him raising their glasses in unison, but this time they changed to small half-liang glasses. You're welcome. Wang Yu clinked his glasses one by one, and the four of them drank at the same time. Qian, you should also toast to Dr. Wang. Others saved you, don't be so rude. The eldest brother Sun Dezhao put down his glass and said to Sun Qian. Thank you, Dr. Wang. Sun Qian picked up a glass of wine and drank it all in one gulp. Ms. Sun is too polite. I'm a doctor, and this is what I should do. Wang Yu was in a more relaxed state of mind at this time. The misunderstanding was explained clearly. The glass of wine was directly 4 times smaller, and the pressure was gone immediately. Dr. Wang, we also know about Qian's disease. Although it can be cured, the person will be half useless after the operation. You can cure Qian. Our Sun family is really grateful to you. You keep this card. It is the consultation fee for you to help, and it is also our brother's gratitude to you. The second brother Sun Dexing handed over a bank card. Although he didn't know how much money was in it, Wang Yu felt that he deserved it. He didn't hesitate to take it and put it in his pocket. Then I will accept it with pleasure. Seeing Wang Yu accept the money, his sister's kindness came to an end. The three brothers were also relieved, and they toasted each other and drank happily. The second brother went out halfway, saying he was going to the bathroom, and Wang Yu didn't care. But when the second brother came back and talked to his eldest brother, the eldest brother's attitude towards Wang Yu changed. Brother, I have investigated. His name is Wang Yu, the son-in-law of the Chen family, but he is divorced. It seems that Chen Yuting cheated on him, but it has not been confirmed yet. This kid has a good character. He dares to love and hate. He can take it or leave it. Although his family background is ordinary, he is definitely a man. I sent the specific information to your mobile phone. You will know after you take a look. After that, the second brother and the third brother drank with Wang Yu. Sun Dezhao took out his mobile phone and read it under the table. Wang Yu's experience from graduation to divorce was clearly written on it. This Wang Yu is really a good man. The conditions of the Chen family are not bad, but it is clearly recorded above that he has not spent a penny of the Chen family for so many years, nor has he used the Chen family's resources to help him do anything. Since getting married, he has worked several jobs alone. With his own efforts, he bought a house and a car, and has always been responsible for his family. Later, when he learned that his wife had betrayed him, he could not tolerate any sand in his eyes. In order to divorce, he chose to leave the house with nothing, and even refused the compensation he had just received. Such a man can endure hardships, dare to fight, have a sense of responsibility, and is responsible. He will not bow down for money and is not afraid of power oppression. If such a man cannot be his brother-in-law, he will never forgive himself in this life. Although his sister is 12 years older than him, in Sun Dejiao's view, this is not a problem. His sister will always be 18 in his eyes. But it seems that this guy is unlikely to agree to be his brother-in-law, and he needs to use some tricks. I, Sun Dejiao, have been upright all my life. I can't care so much for my sister's lifelong happiness. It's despicable, but I'll prepare more dowry to compensate her. Thinking of this, Sun Dejiao made up his mind and gave the second and third brothers a look. How could they not understand what their eldest brother meant after being brothers for many years? The three brothers reached a tacit understanding and looked at Wang Yu with more and more weird smiles on their faces. Qianqian, don't just eat. You are so happy today. Let's have a few drinks together. The second brother, Sun Dexing, even started to calculate his own sister. Okay, I'll have a few drinks with you. Sun Qian didn't doubt it. She thought the three brothers were really happy for her, so she joined in. Chapter 25 The Third Brother's Trick. The atmosphere became more lively with the addition of Sun Qian. Wang Yu, who had just put a card in his pocket, was in a good mood. Looking at the situation of the four brothers and sisters in the Sun family, the money in this card was definitely enough. At that moment, he was even more willing to accept everyone who came, but what he didn't notice was that the three brothers always intentionally or unintentionally persuaded him to drink with Sun Qian. As a younger sister, Sun Qian just felt that the three brothers were particularly enthusiastic today, and she didn't doubt it. After more than 40 minutes, Sun Qian, who had drunk more than a pound, had already fallen on the table. The third brother called two waiters, helped Sun Qian up to the lounge on the third floor, and then began to pour wine for Wang Yu. Wang Yu couldn't remember how much he had drunk from the half-liang cup. He felt that he was now confused, and the three brothers in front of him had become 9 brothers. Come on, brother-in-law, have another drink with the third brother. Sun Dexing took 2 glasses of wine, drank one himself, and put the other glass into Wang Yu's hand, holding the bottom of the cup and pouring it into Wang Yu's mouth. Wang Yu, who was drunk, didn't notice that Sun Dexing, the grandson, had brought the 2 liang wine glass again. After a few drinks, he finally came to his senses, but it was too late. Before he fell, he pointed at the 3 brothers and said, "You brothers have no martial ethics." Then he burped and collapsed on the chair. Fuck, this guy is really good at drinking. If I were him, I might not be able to beat him. Sun Dexing looked at Wang Yu, who was finally drunk, wiped the sweat from his head, and felt like he had completed his mission. Brother, what's wrong with you? The second brother, Sun Dexing, looked at the eldest brother lying on the table motionless, thinking that he was also drunk. Second brother, you don't know how much the eldest brother drinks. I guess he can't drink now. Then what should we do next? The eldest brother didn't say it. Isn't it obvious? The eldest brother asked us to get this guy and Qianqian drunk. It must be a done deal for them. By then, this guy won't be able to refuse to be our brother-in-law. The second brother, Sun Dexing, thought about it and nodded, thinking that what the third brother said made sense. Okay, help our brother-in-law to the room to rest. The two smiled at each other, helped Wang Yu up and walked to the lounge on the 3rd floor. When only the eldest brother Sun Dejiao was left in the room, this guy actually sat up, poured himself a glass of water, and after drinking it, a smug smile appeared on his face. If anyone saw it, they would definitely praise this guy. The eldest brother is the eldest brother. He arranged his 2 younger brothers clearly without saying a word. He arranged everything with just a look. When the incident was exposed and the younger sister came forward to question the 3 brothers, the eldest brother explained that he was also drunk and didn't know what happened later. He could get out of it with just 1 sentence. Only the second and third brothers were responsible for this, and he would always be a good brother in the eyes of his younger sister. The 2 younger brothers upstairs were still unaware of their eldest brother's tricks, and they were still honestly carrying out the plan. Go in and help my sister change her pajamas so that she can sleep more easily. The third brother called a waitress over and ordered. Old 3, if we do this, my younger sister will definitely be angry when she wakes up. What should we do when she gets angry? The second brother frowned, feeling something was wrong. Others would get other people's sisters drunk for their own use, but they got their own sister drunk and sent a man in. The more he thought about it, the more awkward it felt. Compared to my younger sister's lifelong happiness, what does it matter if I get beaten by her a few times? Aren't we brothers doing this for her good? The third brother didn't care at all. How could he not know what kind of character his sister had? Wang Yu was a strong young man with a good body and good looks. The most important thing was that he was young. At his age, my sister could be with him, which was definitely an old cow eating young grass. There was no loss at all. When the time comes, my younger sister will definitely thank us after she holds her son. The third brother added a sentence at the end, but what he was thinking was that when my younger sister had Wang Yu's child, this brother-in-law would be unacceptable. The second brother thought about it and felt that what the third brother said was right. Well, third brother, you usually look straightforward, but I didn't expect you to be so thoughtful. Har har, second brother, this is all for the happiness of my younger sister. The two brothers supported the drunk Wang Yu and stood in the corridor to discuss Sun Qian's future happy life. Boss, everything is done, Miss Sun has fallen asleep. The waiter came out to report the work. Take it, this is your reward. The third brother took out 1,000 yuan and handed it to the waiter, then sent her away. Come on, second brother, help me, this misunderstanding can be made bigger. Second brother, what are you doing? Seeing Sun Dexing turn on the air conditioner and adjust the temperature to 16 degrees directly, the third brother was a little puzzled. Third brother, you don't know this, people will hug each other to keep warm when it's cold. Damn, second brother, you are worthy of being the most educated among our brothers, you know a lot. Okay, let's go, the eldest brother is still downstairs. The two brothers closed the door and left directly. Sun Qian had a dream. In her dream, she felt that she had come to a very cold place, with cold air everywhere, and she could not help but curl up into a ball. But the cold air was everywhere, always around her. Just when she was about to give up, she felt as if there was a warm heater beside her. Now she finally felt warm, like a kitten, snuggling on the heater and sleeping soundly. At this moment, the air conditioner in the room was still working, and the room temperature had dropped to less than 20 degrees. Turning on the night light at the head of the bed, Sun Qian saw her mobile phone on the bedside table. She picked it up and saw that it was more than 2 o'clock in the morning. At this time, she also figured out that this was a trick of her three brothers. She knew exactly why. She was a little angry, but more grateful. Otherwise, she would never have such a peaceful experience in her life. There was a message sent by the second brother on the phone. After opening it, it recorded Wang Yu's information in detail, from family to divorce, from graduation to unemployment, and the record was very clear. Sun Qian was somewhat relieved to know that Wang Yu was single, but the fact that he had 2 children made her feel uncomfortable. Although the Sun family was very capable, they had not found out in such a short time that Wang Yu's 2 children were not his own. When a man has children, he has concerns, not to mention that the man next to him is so responsible. Thinking of this, Sun Qian knew that she couldn't fall into it, otherwise it would hurt Wang Yu in the end. She had long passed the age of needing love, and was used to living alone. She didn't have any special thoughts about Wang Yu before. But the feeling after being alone now made her feel at a loss. Sun Qian laughed at herself, and when she thought of the age gap between the two, she couldn't help but retreat. Chapter 26. Sun Qian wakes up in the middle of the night. Sun Dezhao blames her. Sun Qian stared at Wang Yu silently for a long time. Suddenly she bent down and kissed him deeply on the lips, then turned around and left without looking back. As soon as I opened the door, I saw my 3 brothers sitting on the sofa in the corridor, sleeping soundly. They stayed outside like this the whole time. Sun Qian came to the eldest brother and gently woke him up. When Sun Dezhao woke up and saw his sister, he was about to speak when he was stopped by Sun Qian. The two of them went to a private room downstairs. After closing the door, Sun Qian made a pot of tea and sat quietly in a chair. Sun Dezhao tried to speak several times but was interrupted by Sun Qian. The brother and sister just sat there in silence. Brother, I don't blame you for this. Sun Qian's words made Sun Dezhao, who had prepared countless excuses, speechless. The little sister's behavior was beyond his expectations. She was neither noisy nor angry. Her silence made him feel scared. You've also read the information that my second brother sent me. Well, I've seen it. Although Wang Yu is divorced, he is definitely a good match. Otherwise, the brothers wouldn't do this. I know you all care about me, but this Wang Yu is different. What's the difference? I just need your nod. I'll leave the rest to you, brother. I'll make sure this guy marries you. Brother, I know that if you do this, Wang Yu will most likely marry me, but have you ever thought about whether we can really be happy if he marries me? Why not? Wang Yu's character is definitely worthy of your lifelong trust. Sun Qian took a sip of tea, shook her head and sighed softly. Brother, although Wang Yu is divorced, he still has 2 children. I know you can accept having children. In fact, I can accept it too. But have you ever thought seriously about Wang Yu? What's wrong with him? He's a very manly man, responsible, good-looking, and capable. He's quite good. Yes, he's good. Any woman would be happy to marry him, but these advantages of his are the reason why I can't be with him. Little sister, how come? Sun Dezhao was interrupted by Sun Qian before he could finish his words. Since he got married, he has been a very responsible person who has taken good care of his family. He is also a very principled person and has never spent a penny of the Chen family's money. But have you ever thought about it, if the 2 of us were really together, would he give up his 2 children? No. Sun Dezhao thought for a while and shook his head. Yes, no matter what the reason for the divorce, he will not give up his children. Then these 2 children will be the unbreakable connection between him and his ex-wife. I have met that woman Chen Yuting. She is very well off and beautiful. They have been together since college and are probably each other's first love. Do you think Wang Yu will really let her go after his divorce? Wouldn't he live with Chen Yuting again for the sake of the child? Sun Qian's words made Sun Dezhao fall into deep thought. Wang Yu is so responsible. No matter why Chen Yuting and Wang Yuting divorced, there is a great possibility that Wang Yu will get back together with Chen Yuting for the sake of their children. If I really married Wang Yu because of your nonsense this time, he wouldn't like me. I married me only to be responsible. With his 2 children and Chen Yuting in between, do you think I will really live a happy life, brother? I wonder how Sun Qian would feel if she knew that Wang Yu divorced because of the child. Therefore, people should try not to automatically make up things based on incomplete information. The truth is often beyond your expectations. Little sister, I'm sorry, it's all my brother's fault. Sun Dezhao also figured it out at this time. If my younger sister marries a man who doesn't love her, she won't be happy no matter how good his character is. Okay, big brother, this matter ends here. I'll leave the 2nd and 3rd brothers to you. I'm going home first. After saying that, Sun Qian left. Sun Dezhao worked on it alone for a long time and felt ashamed of his impulsiveness. It is better for me, the eldest brother, to solve the trouble caused by my brothers. Going to the 3rd floor and looking at his 2 younger brothers who were soundly sleeping, Sun Dezhao went up and kicked each of them to wake them up. He stared at the 2 of them with cold eyes, stopping them from saying what they were about to say, motioned for them to follow him, and then the 3 brothers came to the private room they had just been in. Tell me, what did you 2 do while I was drunk? What's wrong, brother? Wasn't it you who gave the signal? Fart. The 2nd and 3rd brothers shrank their necks and dared not say a word. They also knew that this action was indeed excessive. Looking at his 2 younger brothers, Sun Dezhao couldn't bear to blame them anymore. After all, they were the ones who had to bear the biggest blame. He then organized what Sun Qian had just said and explained it in his own words. In that case, my younger sister is indeed not suitable to marry Wang Yu. Sun Dexing nodded in agreement. What should I do? My little sister has suffered such a great loss, let's just let it go. Sun Dexing was unwilling to accept this. He still wanted Wang Yu to be his brother-in-law. After all, his alcohol tolerance was very much to his liking. It's you 2 who made my little sister suffer. What else do you want to do? Okay, I just talked to my little sister, let's just pretend this never happened. Both of you are not allowed to mention it again. Let's go back. Okay, I'll listen to you, brother. I'll go back first. Sun Dexing didn't have any good ideas. He didn't know what to do with matters of the heart, so he prepared to leave immediately. 3rd brother, don't leave. Go and get rid of that kid tomorrow. Don't let him see anything. Sun Dezhao stopped the 3rd brother who was about to run away and gave him instructions. Why me? The 3rd brother pointed at his nose with some reluctance. If it's not you, then it's me. Isn't this hotel yours? That guy didn't sleep in your room. After saying that, Sun Dezhao glared at him and left. Oh shit. I had to go to the venue, prepare food and wine, and not only did I spend money and get nothing in return, but in the end I had to ask him to clean up the mess. But think about it, since I am the 3rd child, my older brothers dare not resist me, and I can only be bullied by my younger sister. In short, you are the one who drinks the most, you are the one who works the most, and you are the one who takes the blame. Now my bed is occupied by someone else and I don't even have a place to sleep. Oh. Tilda, this is fate. With his head hung, Sundashing pulled over a few chairs and put them together, ready to stay there until dawn. Wang Yu slept for more than 10 hours. When he woke up in the morning, he felt refreshed. Seeing himself lying in the lounge upstairs, he couldn't help but recall the famous scene of treating Sun Qian yesterday afternoon. Hey! Tilda, what nonsense are you thinking about? It's just a cure. At this moment, he couldn't remember anything about what happened last night. After getting up, getting dressed, washing his face, Wang Yu prepared to leave. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Sundashing standing at the door with red eyes. "Our third brother, you're here so early. Well, kid, you're awake." At this moment, Sundashing didn't know how to face Wang Yu, but he was still a little angry in his heart. "I'm sorry, third brother. I drank too much yesterday. I'm sorry to bother you." "What are you talking about? You almost knocked all three of us down yesterday. I should take care of you." "Nothing, I'll leave first, third brother." Wang Yu always felt something was strange when he looked at Sundashing, but he didn't think much about it. He thought about going to the hospital and prepared to say goodbye and leave. Go ahead, go ahead. Come and have a drink with Brother San more often when you have time." Sundashing waved his hand and said. Third brother is gone. Wang Yu also likes people with Sundashing's personality, and he feels comfortable calling him third brother.